Okay, we're ready.
I don't want to expect to wait. Hello? It's on?
It's on.
Okay. I'll call the order of our regular Board of Education agenda, May 13, 2019. May I have a pledge of allegiance from Greg Franskosis, Director of Secondary Education? Sorry if I
Please stand.
chopped off.
Put your right hand over your heart. Ready, begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. May I have a roll call, please? Oh, thank you very much, Greg, for that.
Governing Board Member Garcia.
Here.
Governing Board Member Sonia De Leon.
Present.
Governing Board Member Vivian Hansen.
Here.
Governing Board Member Yesenia Cuarenta. Here. And Governing Board Member Carmen Gomez.
Present. Now we're going to approve agenda, May 13, 2019. May I have a motion to approve the regular meeting agenda of May 13, 2019?
I'll second.
Sonia De Leon made the motion. Vivian Hansen made the second.
Garcia made the
I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Sorry, Linda. Linda Garcia made the second. Is LOB taking the vote tonight?
Governing Board Member Garcia.
Yes.
Governing Board Member De Leon.
Yes.
Governing Board Member Hansen.
Yes.
Governing Board Member Cuarenta.
Yes.
And Governing Board Member Gomez.
Yes. So 5-0. The agenda was approved. Now we'll go to study session meeting minutes of March 27, 2019. May I approve the minutes of study session? May I have a motion to approve the minutes of study session meeting held on March 27, 2019?
I'll move.
Vivian Hansen did the motion. May I have a second?
I'll second.
That Sonia De Leon made the second.
Governing Board Member Garcia.
I wasn't there. I abstained.
Governing Board Member De Leon.
Yes.
Governing Board Member Hansen.
Yes.
Governing Board Member Cuarenta.
Yes.
Governing Board Member Gomez.
Yes. So it's 4-0. Study session was approved. Now we'll go to the regular meeting minutes of April 8, 2019. May I have approval for the minutes of the regular meeting held on April 8, 2019? May I have a motion?
I'll move.
Yesenia Cuarenta made the motion. May I have a second?
I'll second.
Vivian Hansen made the second. And Isela will count the vote.
Governing Board Member Garcia.
I have a question or have discussion.
Sure.
In the meeting on April 8, 2019, I don't recall Ms. Perez being delegated to sign the resolution, a resolution that I had stated no to. It was also signed by board member, or electronically signed by board member Garcia, which was not present at the meeting.
Yes, there's an electronic.
Yeah.
Which is on page 20, I believe. Yes. And so with that, I also want to state that in the resolution, it did pass. However, the resolution wasn't stated whether there was yays or nays or anybody absent. I've seen resolutions through all over the district, not including our district. It's either all members sign or the president signs. The resolution wasn't delegated or wasn't given the power for superintendent to sign. She didn't take. She's not of the governing board members, and yet her signature was there, so I'm concerned about that. And it also shows that if you were to, as a governing board member, say no, it's almost like you're actually retaliating. So as a governing board member, I'm concerned that if one says no, then you're going to feel intimidated to say no again, because then it states voted against versus yays or nays. And like I stated before, and if anyone was absent. So I'm really concerned about that. And why I had, because I knew it had passed, why I wasn't allowed to sign it when in the last board meeting I had said that I am for teachers. I really want teachers to be able to speak without any retaliation. So that wasn't added, but I'm just concerned about that. So I've spoken to legal counsel, so that's really concerning to me, because I already feel as a board member retaliated against. And so that's not what we want to be able to do as a governing board. We want to work together. And if there's a policy that we could look at as far as resolutions, that's something we could look at. If not, perhaps make policy, because as board members, we're the ones that make policy. It's not the superintendent, and it's not her cabinet. So if we could look at that, please.
You want me to say something?
Sure, if you'd like to say.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Okay. Let me just gather all the little points that were shared. It sounds to me like Board Member De Leon, even though you voted against the resolution that evening, that you still are in favor of the resolution. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, in the discussion, that's what I said. I voted no, I understand that. And there is no resolution for our district, for Paramount Unified District, that a board member was excluded or was pointed out as voted against. There are other resolutions in other school districts that do say yays or nays. Wording is essential. It's very essential. We can't say voted against. That's like you're pointing that to that person. Look at what you voted. Now, I went to governance training, and they said it's okay if people are not 5-0. It's actually better when you're not 5-0, because that's not an effective governing board. But anyhow, that's my concern. So what is the protocol? What is our policy? What is our policy on that? Because in no other district, like I said, and I told legal counsel, I said, please look into this, because this to me is saying we're not following what we're supposed to. So like I mentioned, besides my point, it's the point that Ms. Garcia wasn't present.
Yes.
So it should have been a yay,
Yeah.
nay, and then whoever was absent, then put that on there. And then again, with all due respect, Ms. Perez, you weren't delegated authority to sign. It's a resolution that board members that were present voted on.
Right.
So those are my concerns.
So just so you know, let me just alleviate your concern about things that I am delegated to sign. There are many documents that are on the board agenda that is a follow-up when at the end of a board meeting the next day, you don't see it, but I do sign them because I am required to sign them. So that's something that you may not see, but yes, I am required by LACO.
If you could show me that.
Yes, there are many things because LACO follows up on the things that we agree on. So two things. One is if it had Ms. Garcia's electronic signature, you're correct. She was not at the board meeting. What it should have said is absent instead of her electronic signature. So that is an error that we can certainly correct. The other thing is that please know that for every single action item, including the consent agenda, the moment you vote against something, that is considered a nay, and it is considered voting against it. That's just simply how it is. You're either for the item or you're against it.
Ms. Perez, like I stated and I looked at plethora of different resolutions at other school boards and at our school district, how the resolutions are signed, and it's either all board members sign, or it's either the president that signs. I've not seen one that you have signed except with the resolution that this passed. So I would need to see documentation and revisit policy, or we need to make policy, because obviously I want to encourage other members of the community to run for the school board. And I would hate for them to come in and feel intimidated if they voted not against, but no. Meaning that's why we say yay or nay, because wording is everything.
Nay does mean no.
Exactly,
Yes.
but that's how everyone else has it. So if we could,
Yes. So
Perhaps
instead of
we need
against,
to-
you wanted to say
we need to
no.
either write a policy, so we can make sure it says yay or nay, just like everyone else. Otherwise, it just sounds not appropriate, and not appropriate when we have no documentation, or at least I wasn't given any documentation. I don't know if any other board member was given documentation. And you should take in consideration that we're newly elected. So it would have been, nice to say, I'm signing this because, and this is where it shows. So we need to build trust.
I think if I can interject, once we receive our bylaws, which we're waiting for, which I'm not too sure when we will receive them, I think we can add that to our bylaws, and any other policies that we believe that should be in our bylaws, we can look at it at
Yes,
that time.
yes.
Because right now, I don't think we're getting anywhere with this because we don't have our bylaws.
Well, but I do want to share with you, because what I'm hearing is that even though our board member voted against it, she was still in favor of it,
Correct.
is what I'm hearing. So I will need from the board consistency in terms of, if you say, when the vote is taken, if you say nay, we're going to take that as you're not in favor of it for everything. So please
So just, yes,
clarify.
yay or nays, just like every other school district does it, that's the way it should be done. So if we
So
need
if
to
it
wait
said nay,
policy,
if it
then
said
we should
nay,
write
that would have
policy.
been, it would have
Yes.
been fine. Okay. So what we can do, board member De Leon, we will write nay on it, and we will take out, we'll correct Linda Garcia's signature on it, and we will resubmit that. And with regard to how resolutions are done, in the name of trust, as you have shared, please know that this district has done resolutions like this since before I came, and that when I worked in LA Unified, the signature of all board members would go on it as well. But
According to legal
I,
counsel, it's if you were delegated the power, but we didn't delegate the power. But if you're stating that there's a document, then please show us the document.
a document of delegation of.
No, you earlier, you said that there's a documentation that says that after every board meeting, if there was a resolution, that then you are able to sign it.
Yes, we have many past ones that we will gladly share with you. And just so you know, moving forward, there are many things that I sign after a board meeting, not just resolutions. Okay?
Correct. So just send me that paperwork, please.
I'll send it to the entire board as
Thank
per our
you.
protocol. Thank you, Madam President.
So we had a motion by Yesenia Cuarenta, a second by Vivian Hansen. Now, Gisela, can you please take the vote?
Board Member Garcia,
I was absent.
Governing Board Member De Leon,
Yes.
Governing Board Member Hanson.
Yes.
Governing Board Member Cuarenta.
Yes.
And Governing Board Member Gomez.
Yes. 4-0. Regular meeting passed. Now we'll go on to the reports. Number 1 would be the Student Board Representative Activity Report. Reports on school activities, including athletics, academics, and extracurricular activities. The first one will be Yanet Lopez from Paramount High School.
Good evening, board members, President Gomez, Superintendent Perez, and guests. As we all welcome the end of the school year, I am glad to share with you all the events that have taken place within the last few weeks of school. To begin with, on May 1st, our school's top lady scholars were given the opportunity to attend College Signing Day at UCLA, hosted by Michelle Obama. College Signing Day is a national College Signing Day is a national celebration of all high school seniors, especially those from low-income, underrepresented, and first-generation college-going backgrounds who have committed to pursuing higher education. My favorite highlight during this event was definitely feeling empowered after hearing Ms. Obama's motivational speech as I prepared to attend University of Santa Barbara to attend biology on a pre-med track. I was reminded that it doesn't matter who you are or where you come from because we all have the same opportunities from here. A special shout out to Mr. Ono for making this possible and for allowing us to go. Speaking on the topic of first generation, Paramount High School will be hosting a first generation four-year college family night on May 22nd at 6 p.m. in the main gym. First generation four-year students will be recognized for their academic achievements, and parents will be able to obtain more information on what is next after graduation. I would like to thank our Board of Education, school administration, and parents for constantly promoting a college-going culture both on and off campus. Currently at Paramount High School, students are focused on AP testings with exams such as calculus, English language and compositions, and statistics that will be taking place this week, just to name a few. By being given the opportunity to participate in AP classes, pirates are being prepared for a successful transition to college through rigorous curriculums that promote college readiness and overall college success. Lastly, Saturday, May 18th, prom will be hosted at the Proud Bird in Los Angeles. It is definitely an amazing way to end the week after AP exams, and we are expecting it to be a great night. There are only 23 more weekdays left till graduation, and yes, we are counting. Thank you and have a great evening.
Thank you. Thank you, Janet. Next would be Ava Guevara from Paramount High School West Campus.
Good evening, Board President Gomez, board members, Superintendent Dr. Perez, Executive Cabinet, and audience. My name is Ava Guevara, and I am representing Paramount High School West Campus. On Wednesday, April 24th, our first semester scholars had an enjoyable time celebrating their accomplishments during Day of the Scholar. Almost 600 students were able to play games, hang out with their fellow scholars, and pick up their scholar shirt. ASB in class of 2022 had Kindness Week where students celebrated each other and random acts of kindness throughout the school. Kindness Week ended with our senior campus link crew leaders teaching us about making assumptions in a lesson where we work together to stop our misconceptions of each other. Last week, we celebrated our Faculty Week where ASB students started Monday's collaboration meeting with a cheering tunnel, bagels and coffee on Tuesday, special room deliveries on Wednesday, and lastly, handwritten notes were delivered to each faculty member. We appreciate everyone at West Campus for their dedication and support for all of us. On Thursday, May 9th, we hosted our freshman orientation for incoming 9th grade students and parents. Mrs. Salcido, our principal, presented information on how to be involved as a student and parent. ASB escorted students and parents around campus for tours and answered questions. On Thursday, May 16th, we will hold our annual night of recognition at 5 p.m. in the gym. We are celebrating the class of 2022's accomplishments during the first year of high school. Lastly, ASB will be hosting our final pirate lunch on Friday, May 17th. Our faculty is excited to celebrate with our students in their academic achievement and improvement. Thank you for this opportunity to let you know what amazing things are happening at West Campus. Have a great evening.
Thank you, Ava. Next, we'll hear from Daisy Gurola from Buena Vista High School.
Good evening, President Gomez, members of the board, and Superintendent Dr. Perez. It is my pleasure to be here tonight representing Buena Vista High School. Returning from spring break, ASB continues to work hard to provide students with some fun and exciting lunchtime activities. We have most recently held a pie eating contest, a scavenger hunt, and the Cinco de Mayo celebration. The ever popular Create a Tie-Dye t-shirt event is happening soon. ASB has also played a role in the recognitions and celebrations of our Lunch Day heroes, the Day of the Teacher, and the upcoming Classified Employee Day. We really appreciate all the people who worked with us. The Frigos Club traveled to Griffith Park Observatory on Friday, May 10th. We hiked to the Hollywood sign, then we feasted on sandwiches with all the fixings. And finally, after the sunset, we investigated the observatory exhibits and telescopes. It was a great evening, and we were all sad to see our adventures end for this year. This Friday is our Buena Vista Student Award Dinner to be held at PHS West Campus. On this special evening, teachers, counselors, and administrators honors those students to have demonstrated success through their academics and our guidelines for success. Please join us for their special celebration if you can. Seniors are excited about attending prom this Saturday night. Students will travel to the Proud Bird in Los Angeles for a night of dinner, dancing, and memories. And they are even more excited about graduation taking place on Tuesday, June 11th. After years of hard work, studying, and even some fun in between, graduating seniors are excited about their futures. Thank you for your attention tonight, and may you all have a pleasant evening.
Thank you, Daisy. Next will be Sakura Ponce from Odyssey STEM Academy.
Good evening, Board President Gomez, members of the board, Superintendent Perez, Executive Cabinet, and community. During this trimester, we're learning about the human experience as we design solutions around humans' needs. In humanities, we have begun to write our personal narrative, exploring an important moment in our lives. By examining others' personal narratives, I've actually been able to see a variety of writing styles. I've been able to apply their techniques to my own story. My story is about a time when my grandfather passed and he left me a few words of advice to not let others affect me. Writing this has helped me realize that I'm worth more than I give myself credit for. Also that everyone has their differences and it's always better to give someone a chance rather than to jump to conclusions. Scholars at Odyssey have been divided into 8 teams to build the sensory trail for Innovation Studio. Which we're installing at Dreamcatcher, Los Angeles. Coming up with an interactive structure has helped us pay close attention to what we hear, see, and touch in order to help those who might struggle with these abilities. My team is building a musical hexagon that acts, obviously, like a musical instrument. The rider on the horse can roll along the trail and make a noise similar to rain. As the end of the year comes close, Odyssey Scholars will present a final exhibition defending our learning to our advisors, families, and classmates. This is our chance to make a case for why we should get a meeting or an advance on annual learning milestones. I'm personally going to focus on the evaluation and research milestone. All of us scholars here are nervous for exhibition, but we are beyond excited to become 10th graders. Thank you.
Thank you, Sakura. Now is Jasmine Hernandez from Paramount Adult School.
Good evening, members of the board, President Gomez, and Superintendent Dr. Perez, Executive Cabinet, and guests. Thank you again for the opportunity to share all the wonderful activities created on our campus. First, adult school teacher each selected the students of the month for the month of April. Congratulations to all the students of the month recipients. The adult schools and hub cities, one of the job centers of America, joined forces to provide job training and job opportunities for our adult school students. The adult school IET students received the initial representation from hub cities where they learned about other programs that they offer. Additionally, hub cities also presented to the CTE and the adult school students in the high school diploma program Next, the students held an annual Mother's Day celebration with delicious food during break time. Furthermore, a huge congratulations to Cassandra Rubio as she completed the state requirements for a high school diploma. Cassandra took 4 years to complete the courses despite the extreme challenges and adversities she faced. We are proud of Cassandra. Finally, the Red Cross held their spring blood drive at the school. Thank you to all the students and staff members for donating blood. We had 36 units of blood collected, which will save 108 lives. Next, the Paramount Adult Transition Program held their annual workability tour. The parents were treated to presentations from the teachers and students. The teachers took parents to the work sites to see the transition students perform their job duties. They were able to meet the business owners and learn about the job skills the students are experiencing. Moreover, Ms. Preciado's class attended the musical theater West Carpenter Performing Center and viewed the musical Catch Me If You Can. Moreover, Mr. Alonso's and Ms. Preciado's classes visited the Los Angeles Zoo, while Ms. Alfaro's students took a trip to Shoreline Village in Long Beach, where they visited the shops and ate at the local restaurants. Finally, the Community Day School students continue to receive support from the site social worker through restorative practice and mentor group. Goals for life. There were 11 students with perfect attendance during various weeks in April. Furthermore, open house was a success where parents were able to meet with their students' teachers. Also, CDS is holding individual parent training on Parent View. Thus far, we have 50% of the parents trained. Finally, the teachers and our counselor held individual intervention meetings with the parents of our students who are struggling academically. CDS is staying proactive in an effort to support students' success. As you can see, there are many wonderful things happening at the Paramount Adult School, PAT and CDS. Thank you, everyone. Have a great evening.
Thank you, Jasmine. And now we'll have the students go home and, I guess, study for exams because school's almost over. Thank you so much. Great job. Now we'll go to number 2, employee representative report, reports on contractual issues and/or items interested in bargaining unit members. Yes, Kim Goldberg. Go first.
Good evening, President Gomez. School Board, Linda, great to have you here, even if it's through telecommunication.
Thank you.
Dr. Perez, Cabinet, and guests. I represent about 850 teachers. I do not only represent the teachers at Los Cerritos School or the science department at West Campus, or even my own site. I represent them all. I represent the teachers that do not and cannot come to these meetings in the evenings because they're preparing their lessons, grading student work, or just taking care of themselves or their families. Tonight, I asked some of them to come, and a lot of them are in the audience today, to support me as I speak with you. I have taught in this district for 20 years. I came to Paramount because I was about to leave education. I came here from a district that was in complete turmoil, so much so that the police were called to many of their board meetings. I loved my students, their families, and my coworkers, but the unprofessionalism and lack of disrespect was overwhelming. I thought that this cannot be the way public education runs. I got it, okay. I got it, thank you. So I decided to try another district, and I drove a mile east to Paramount, and I found my home. But last month, I had flashbacks. At the last meeting, we had people hollering from the back of the room, completely disregarding Robert's Rules of Order, and others insulting each other and even insulting our district as a whole. This is not beneficial for our goal. The reason why I stayed in Paramount is because we work together and we are all here for students. After the last meeting, I was attacked on social media for being too close to the district, and on another post, too close to Mrs. Hanson. My reply to both of those attacks is yes. Yes, I am working close to the district. Having open and productive communication is key to any well-run organization. Yes, I'm friendly with Mrs. Hanson, and I hope over the next few years, I will also be friendly with all of you that sit on this board. You are the governing board of this district, and having communication with you is just as important. I have met with each of you individually to talk about your vision, and I shared mine as the new president. And I believe in my heart that we're all here for kids. Working in collaboration is in everyone's best interest. I believe that working in a state of chaos is not what's best for kids. I have heard from many people that our board meetings have become unsettling. The current teachers I represent work tirelessly for their students every single day. They are hoping that the board, along with the district, will do their jobs so that we can all be productive. TAP's job, and mine in particular, is to listen to our members' concerns, discuss solutions, and then talk with principals, district people, board members on how we should move forward. And that is what I'll continue to do. Do I get everything my members and I want? I wish, but no. Is our Paramount family perfect? Show me one that is, so no. But we all need to remember that we're all here working for the same goal, and that is to educate the students of this city. Thank you.
Are there any other representatives like to speak up? No? Okay. Thank you, Kim. We're going to item number 3 now. Board members report, reports on visits to schools, conferences attended, and scheduled meetings. We'll go with board member Garcia. I know you, I'll go with you first.
Good evening. I'm happy to be here with you via tech. It's wonderful what we have set up now. First of all, I want to thank the adult ed for sending me a wonderful basket of fruit. I want to thank them. I want to thank everybody for the wonderful cards I've gotten and the support I have had. I want to mention Tepic El Dia de Niño was a great success once again. And I want to thank our schools for all helping out and getting this thing set up and going for the Tepic group. On June 8th, from 12 to 2 at the American Legion Hall over on Somerset, we will be having a memorial scholarship luncheon for Ethel Hilliard. And we will be giving 4 scholarships to PHS students and 1 to the Buena Vista student. Anybody interested in attending, please contact Frank Barraza at Food Services. Thank you.
Thank you very much, board member Garcia. Now we'll go to board member De Leon.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and members of the audience, teachers especially, for being here. There's a plethora of things that I've attended, and I want to go rather quickly. I tend to usually report out and make sure that what I say reflects what I'm learning, because I've taken 4 CSBA trainings, which I forget, and I was looking up online, and then that thing stopped on me because I have to remember to state acronyms. So that's the California's School Boards Association. With that, I'm learning that we need to look at policies, make sure they're updated. Perhaps we, as a new board member, I'm concerned about our safety policy and if we even have a policy, because I know that's been an issue. They brought into our attention that as a governing board, we are the ones that make policy, and the superintendent and her cabinet is the one who follows through what the board has decided, what policies we are to make. Also, with the LCAP, there's a plethora of ideas that they told us that as school board members, and perhaps Ms. Perez, you could look into that, because they were saying that it was our job, which I highly believe, that we go out to the community, whether it be town halls or what have you, but we need one-on-one conversation, not just surveys or robocalls, but one-on-one conversations on what the community wants. And we were looking at the trainings, I was looking at the vision and mission statement, and they were telling us, does it match your LCAP? It's very important, does it match? Is it measurable? So those are things that I'm coming in and I'm like, whoa, it's great that I'm learning all this information now. I have to follow through, and it does take time for the governing board, especially us newly elected governing board members, to make sure that we go to these trainings and we implement what's being taught in order for us to move forward and get everyone's input, because collaboration is key in order for our school and our school district to move forward in the direction that we really wanted to. And our vision statement has to state that. We have to follow it. There was an example where a school district had said that they wanted healthy students, but then they had to look at, well, what food were they giving them? They weren't providing healthy food. Nevertheless, I attended the Londra Spring concert brought by Ms. Krakauer. I attended the Zamboni stakeholders meeting, the administrative luncheon, where we were thankful for the administrators, secretaries also. I attended the LCAP meeting, and I have to remember LCAP local control accountability plan. I attended the second annual, which I attended the first annual, but this was a second annual music and art show, which was phenomenal. I think in the future we should have an additional and charge probably people. I think people would pay because it was just phenomenal. The students were so great. The work that goes into teaching students music is awesome. So I really highly appreciate the music teachers. I also went into the I already said about Zamboni, sorry. I also attended the Paramount Education Partnership PEP Annual Scholarship Fundraiser. I learned that our students raise more money than our local businesses, so I challenged the local businesses to raise more money than our students did. They raised approximately $97,000. So shout out to those students, because the students, which parents like us obviously give our children the money to go and put this money forward to those scholarships. I also attended USC, the robotics competition, where I highly, I'm pleased with Mr. Rice and Mr. Brainer, who take their time on Saturday to take our kids out there and to make, have competitions. In all honesty, I think we won, but with all fairness, we did just phenomenal. The robots that one of the teams created was just awesome. It did more than the other schools did, but unfortunately, I don't know the rules. I guess they won, but we didn't. But I told our kids that in our heart, we're winners, and next time we'll come stronger. So hopefully, where there's more support. Also, I attend the Paramount, the PYSO, which is the Paramount Youth Soccer Games. I attended a fundraiser for the Women's Club scholarships, and those scholarships go for our students here in Paramount. Again, the LCAP meeting, the last LCAP meeting on May 7th, which was great because we gave input and we collaborated, and we were just thinking of what ways can we engage our community. I know in the governance meeting, they stated that we have to look at the language. Does your community understand the language? Is it an environment where they feel welcome? They even stated, and that's in the governance course, they even stated to go out to churches, but that's what they're saying. but that's not a bad idea. So in other words, we need to go out to the community. And then on May 7th, I was honored to attend the city council meeting where lots of our students were recognized, and we recognized Teachers of the Year. Also, on May 8th, I attended the Who's Award where Maria was recognized, and I appreciate people who are really for the unions, that make the unions better. And we'll, again, on May 9th and 10th, I attended another governance course training, so I have just one more to attend. So that's going to be another thousands of questions that I'll be asking, and you know, with all due respect, it's for us to learn, and I highly recommend our new elected board members to attend these meetings, so it's not thinking that, oh, it's Mrs. De Leon asking 1,000 questions, but this is what we're learning. And so questions aren't bad. You have to reflect what, you know, we teachers tell students, ask questions. So obviously I ask a lot of questions, but thank you for your patience, and thank you for being here tonight.
Thank you, Board Member De Leon. Now we'll go to Board Member Hanson.
Good evening. I hope everyone had a great Mother's Day, all of you that are mothers. I attended the Cal Poly Pomona College of Engineering Feminine Summit. It's a program created to empower girls to pursue a STEM education and careers. We had 65 girls from Alondra, Jackson, and Zamboni schools who participated in hands-on project-based learning over 30 hours spent after school. The students showcased their projects for us that day. Dr. Perez was with us, and I had an opportunity to view the projects and hear from the girls how the program benefited them. I want to thank Ms. Kim and the teachers who opened these young women to a career that typically, I want to thank Ms. Kim and the teachers, and, a panel of female engineers shared their work and encouraged the young ladies to pursue a career in STEM. Because basically they were explaining these careers are mostly men in the past, and there were hundreds of these girls there. It was incredible. I attended the last LCAP meeting, and the draft is being finalized, and it's another opportunity for input. We reviewed the Parent Advisory Committee input process, and we reviewed the input from students, teachers, and community, and our parents group over the past meetings. A push to have more parents respond was more successful this year, as we had over 9,000 responses to our survey that was sent home with students, and over 60 from our DLAC and LCAP, DLAC and PAC committees. The draft document is on our website, and there are copies at all of the schools. I urge you to read it and provide your input. For the final revision will be done over the next few weeks. Follow the link on the front page of the website, and the LCAP questionnaire is the document for you to provide your feedback for any changes you'd like to see addressed. I attended the AQMD meeting at Jackson School. Our environmental consultant presented the final report of the testing of classrooms at Lincoln and Gaines that was done in conjunction with the health department. The full report is also on the district website. The results are very favorable, and I hope you'll take the time to read the full report. It's quite lengthy, but we're pleased to continue to work with all the agencies involved to take the recommended steps to ensure safety of our students and our staff. I also attended the PEP annual scholarship fundraiser. I want to thank all of the sponsors, both corporate and the individuals who provided financial support for the program. I attended the monthly ad hoc meeting at City Council, or with two city council members, where we discuss issues that impact both our district and our schools. And the City Council Education Week was phenomenal this year. Each year at a regular City Council meeting, the city recognizes our Teachers of the Year, the valedictorian, the salutatorian, the pennies for PEP school winners, and the PEP scholarship winners. The scholarship winners will have a banner placed on the boulevard with their picture and the name of the college they'll be attending. They also recognize the top 25 PHS students, the top 5 volunteers, and 5 PHS Momentum students for the class of 2019. Those 5 students are students who've had roadblocks placed in their way, and they've had a lot of diversity in their lives, and the schools worked with them, and those students stuck it out, and they are graduating. And lastly, I attended the WHO dinner, where I was pleased to be part of the group that honored and congratulated Maria Parkins for all her efforts. Is she here tonight? Oh, we wanted to tell her thank you. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Board Member Hanson. Now we'll go to Board Member Cuarenta.
That's a tough one to follow. These two ladies are amazing. I was honored to attend the WHO dinner award as well. So I just want to congratulate Maria Parkinson. And that's all I have to share today.
Okay. Thank you very much, Board Member Cuarenta. I also attended the AQME air quality meeting. It was a very informative meeting. Please do go on the website as Board Member Hanson advised. Also, I attended the City Council meeting where it was proclaimed Education Month, which the Teacher of the Year and all our scholarship recipients. It was so proud to see so many Paramount students receiving the scholarships and knowing that they're going on to either JC, college, or universities. I heard a lot of UCLA, of course, and a lot of Cerritos and Long Beach, which is fantastic. But anywhere you go, it's awesome. We heard Fullerton. We had all sorts of Berkeley, everywhere around. So that was really great. I also attended the TAP Annual WHO Awards. The WHO Awards stands for We Honor Ours. And just like Board Member Hanson said, Maria Parkin received the award. It was a really nice dinner, real nice to see all the other districts there. It was my first time, so I give them a round of applause for everything they've done. I also attended Tepique's Dia de los Niños. I want to thank Frank Barraza from Paramount Sister Cities for inviting the Paramount Unified School District Governing Board to its annual Dia de los Niños event at Paramount Park and allowing us to have a booth that showcased all the great things that Paramount has in place for our district. We gave out pencils, books, information, a lot of interest in our cosmetology at the adult school and the phlebotomy. You know, it's really surprising, but it's going to kick off. It looks like a great program we have. So that's all I have, but thank you very much. And now we'll go to the superintendent's report.
Thank you, Madam President. So, of course, as the board knows and others know, I've been to most of the activities that you all have been at, and it certainly is a busy month, but it's also been a very happy month. And to me, the happiest has been the evening that our students received scholarships at the City Council meeting by the PEP board, and were congratulated by the board and the City Council members. And I just want to share that I'm grateful that there's a push to get our community to get even more, our business community, get even more behind giving our students money for scholarships. The school district this year collected $97,000, which in 3 years is $250,000 that our students and our teachers have put together. And this year, 48 students received scholarships. But you know, something that, and it's the only thing I'm going to say before we go into the presentations, something that a lot of people don't know is that students can come back and reapply for the same PEP scholarship. So for example, and I was sharing this with principals at a principals meeting last week, we have a student, and I won't say her name because I know our meetings are taped now, but we have a student who is going to be a sophomore at Cal State Long Beach. And this student was a PEP award winner. She received back then $3,000, and she comes back every year to apply. She is a phenomenal student. She volunteers with the Girl Scouts. She volunteers in Assembly Member Rendon's office. And you'll notice I say volunteer because she is a dreamer. And because she's a dreamer, she does not have the ability to work for pay. So she relies on this scholarship, and she puts aside with that money, the money for books, for textbooks throughout the year. She's at Cal State Long Beach. And she puts aside money, she budgets her money to eat throughout the year. So these are the students that continue to be our students, even though they're post-secondary, but that we want to see them get through and get their college degree. But I was reading an article recently about how many students in our nation today that are in college are going hungry. And that is the reality. And we even have students that are homeless. These scholarship opportunities, like we're doing as a family, as a district, to raise money for our kids, is really making a difference in the lives of our children. So I agree, we need to encourage the business community to give more money, and we will, as a district, we will continue to push forward. This year, 48 students received scholarships. Students returning for more scholarship dollars are receiving, I don't know what amount that is yet. And we will continue to increase that amount until at least 100 students can be receiving every year scholarships from PEP. So I'd like to thank everybody involved in this rigorous effort of March Madness. It really is madness for everybody involved, but everybody is involved. So it really shows how much our commitment and our dedication for our students. So board members, we have several presentations this evening, some of which you requested that I bring to your attention. The first one is not one that you requested that I bring to your attention, but it's PHS West. We rotate our schools to showcase the work that they are doing at their sites, and PHS West is in charge of the bulletin boards this time around for a few weeks. And I'd like to turn it over to Principal Salcido to share with her team what you will see on the bulletin boards here, as well as outside of the work of our administrators.
Good evening, Board President Gomez, board members, Superintendent Dr. Perez, Executive Cabinet, and audience. We represent Paramount High School West Campus, and we are proud of our digital footprint. West Campus is teaching our students to be responsible digital citizens on a daily basis. We have pride in our abilities and pride in who we are. We are students, artists, athletes, mathematicians, scientists, writers, musicians, and dancers. Here is a glimpse of our digital footprint.
Think about your future, what do you see? An ordinary life or something greater?
I see an opportunity to seize the day and a chance to learn something new within an environment that encourages self-expression.
Now we know each other a little better, and all is said and done, because this courage and understanding is the one war I've won.
They encourage me and challenge me to be the best I can be, and they inspire me to go beyond their expectations.
Paramount High School West Campus offers students the opportunity to truly shine and develop their intellectual abilities and interests that they're passionate about.
And another shy people. Gracias.
The biggest life lesson I learned from West Campus is that they empowered us to be whatever it is we want to be. Whether it's a CEO, an entrepreneur, a doctor, a lawyer, a police officer, a graphic designer, or a chef, we are told we could do whatever it was that we wanted to do.
I can use my creativity to let my imagination run, where I can take a different approach to obstacles, growing into a self-motivated leader.
Let's go. Warm up with the purpose of stretching. Let's go.
The same base, both, right? So my question is, do they have the same volume? Is the volume of cone the same volume as cement? Yes or no? Talk to each other. Yes.
Whoa. Whoa. All right, let's go.
Clap.
Every student gets to truly feel like they can try new things, whether it's taking different classes, participating in student activities, or joining sports.
Why is the First Amendment important?
Freedom of speech.
Not everyone will notice my dreams, and that's okay, because one day those dreams will become a reality.
Square rooted. Good? Other questions, guys?
Paramount High School West Campus. To be a Paramount Pirate does not end after graduation, but continues throughout life, and we know the world needs individuals like us to create a better future.
Once a pirate, always a pirate.
The video you just watched was planned, edited, produced, and published by Mr. Jaffe and our ASB and CTE media design students. Our bulletin boards reflect on our digital footprint as learners. Beginning in the hallway, you can use the QR codes and YouTube to view the linked learning assignments, where our students presented lessons within multiple subjects during their school day. The products are amazing, and were made possible with the students' Chromebooks. The QR code to the video we just presented is also located on this board. As a one-to-one device school, our students are connected to the past and present world. The students' access to resources and experiences are invaluable. The pictures displayed on our boards are a representation of the technology used in the classrooms. On our Schoology board, our teachers are able to present assignments digitally, and students are able to compose and submit assignments and responses with the use of their devices. Technology has streamlined the delivery of materials and constantly provides an instrumental resource for our students and teachers. On our Facebook board, right across, our ELA team was able to bring history alive and connect the civil rights movement of the past to today's social justice activism. They were able to produce essays and convey their learnings on the topic. Using Instagram, the students were able to produce posts that depicted the scenes from Romeo and Juliet and present their argument in an essay on who was at fault for the deaths of Romeo and Juliet. And they're quite interesting. Our Snapchat board is centered on pictures, and our math team showcasing their use of Chromebooks for coding in algebra and student collaboration across the classes. Students are also able to create thinking maps digitally to convey their thoughts and communicate within their groups. Twitter, behind our executive cabinet, is an excellent resource for showcasing student work. Our science team is able to complete assignments and labs digitally and produce student work in a professional manner. The board is a representation of all the hard work being done in biology. And finally, if you take a look at our Instagram board, which is behind the audience, you will be able to see many of the great opportunities for students and parents on campus. Paramount High School West Campus is preparing our students to become leaders of tomorrow. As the first one-to-one device school in the district, our staff has embraced technology and elevated their lessons and expectations of our students. On behalf of the staff at West Campus, we would like to present the board and Dr. Perez with a token of our appreciation for your support of our students and our staff. Please enjoy a sweet treat made especially for you by our CTE culinary students. Thank you again for your time and your support.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Board members, this evening, if I may ask, would you kindly come to the front, in front of the dais here? You will be recognizing 4 schools that received, this was in your board update, your Wednesday report, that is, a special recognition recently by the USC School of Sol Price School of Educational Policy and Innovation Education. Schools in Los Angeles were recognized that have best served underserved students, and we have 4 schools that received this honorary award. And board members, this evening we have representatives from each of these schools that you will honor and shake their hands, and we have a plaque to give them and to congratulate them for this incredible award. I will share exactly what these schools have accomplished for their children. I'm going to use my teacher voice a little bit. Okay, so Lincoln Elementary was honored for improvements by low-income Latino students in both English language arts and math, according to results from the California Assessment of Student Performance and Progress, also known as the PASS, because all we have our acronyms in education. They had a high level of students that met or exceeded the English language arts proficiency standard, and it was an incredible jump from the previous year. And then in math, a percent of our Lions at Lincoln met or exceeded proficiency standards as well, an incredible jump from the previous year. And here to accept this award is Dr. Tafikia Jones. Takes a village. All right. Yes. Thank you. Jefferson Elementary is another school that was also for its improvements in math by underserved Latino students. The CAST results increased tremendously over the previous year with students who met or exceeded proficiency standards. Kelly Anderson? Kelly Williams here? Come on, you belong. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, so the next school is Wesley Gaines Elementary. For improvement in math proficiency for low-income Latino students, high percentage of students met or exceeded math standards. Congratulations. One more. Thank you. And last but not least, Carlydale KA School was recognized as a top LA school for improvement in math by low-income Latino students. And they also had a great percentage of students meeting or exceeding math proficiency standards over the previous year. And is Lisa? The village, thank you for the hard work. Thank you. This evening, I also want to recognize some phenomenal work that all of our stakeholders have been involved in, and that is work to reduce the absenteeism among our students in our district, especially among the elementary levels, where we see that we have a lot of students that tend to be absent a lot because mom and dad think it's okay for the little ones to miss school. And we know that it's so critically important that our students attend school on a regular basis. And so the California Department of Education recognizes school districts that reduce significantly the number of absentees that they have in a year, as well as the number of suspensions. And currently in our district, less than 1% of our students have been suspended this year. So with 15,000 students, that's a wonderful improvement over the years. And we continue to do that by working with our students and, of course, providing our teachers with support and professional development, as other districts are doing, on working with students and families, supporting through social workers, through counselors, to support families and help our students through safe and civil practices, teaching practices, how to behave in class, how to behave in school, how to avoid getting in trouble so that they come to school and they are not suspended. And so as I shared, the California Department of Education has given our district what is called a SARB award. Now, our district puts resources into this, and one of the resources is the position of Anthony Sepulveda, who works in attendance, and his director, who is Dr. San Miguel. And I would like them both to come forward as those who spearhead these efforts to continue to reduce absenteeism as well as our suspension in schools. And we're very grateful for your work at the district level to support our schools and support our students to achieve this success. Get that too. So one is for Mr. Sepulveda for all the zillion phone calls that you make home and all the SARB meetings that you attend, along with Dr. San Miguel. We appreciate you both very, very much. Thank you.
If I may, I think it'll be a little bit better closer to the right. Center. Good. Okay. Look at me, okay? Hands in the middle. One, two. One, two. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you, board members.
Okay, board members, per your request, you wanted to have a presentation on trustee areas, and due to a miscommunication at the last board meeting, we were going to have Mr. Robinson with us from the firm AALRR, but he is here this evening to provide you with that presentation. Mr. Robinson?
All right, good evening. Thanks for having me tonight. Sorry about the mix-up at the last board meeting. My name's Todd Robbins. I'm a partner with Atkinson Andelson, and tonight I'm going to talk to you about the process for transitioning the district's method of election from at-large to by-trustee area elections. And before I get started, this is just informational. We haven't received any sort of demand or anything like that, so just want you to keep that in mind as we go through this. There are three types of elections that the Education Code allows for. There are at-large elections, which is what the district currently uses, and that method of election is where all of the voting constituents in the school district are able to vote for all 5 school board members. The second method of election is what's called from trustee area elections, and that's where the district would be divided up into 5 separate trustee areas. The trustees would be required to reside within each of those areas, but the election would still be at large, meaning the entire community would still vote for all 5 trustees, but the trustees would have to be kind of geographically separate. And then there's by-trustee area elections, and that is where the district would be divided up into 5 areas. The board members would have to reside within each area, and only the members who, or only the community members who reside within the areas in which a trustee is up for election could vote for that trustee. So the best analogy for this would be our congressional elections. You know, we vote for the congressperson from our particular congressional district. We can't vote for ones that are in Northern California or out in Palmdale or wherever. So that's the best analogy for by-trustee area elections. The California Voting Rights Act has called into question the use of at-large elections. This law came into being in 2001, and it added Elections Code Section 14027, which provides an at-large method of election may not be imposed or applied in a manner that impairs the ability of a protected class to elect candidates of its choice. It's also concerned about the ability of protected classes to influence elections, and it's also concerned that at-large election methods dilute voting strength amongst the voters within a particular jurisdiction. So what constitutes a violation of the California Voting Rights Act? It's really simple, and yet it's complicated all at the same time. The California Voting Rights Act was enacted. You may have heard of the Federal Voting Rights Act. There are 3 criteria to find a violation of the Federal Voting Rights Act. The state of California did away with 2 of those criteria and limited it to just a showing of what is called racially polarized voting. That is a statistical analysis that is done. But simply put, if you have 2 candidates, candidate A, candidate B, and after examining the data, it shows that one group preferred candidate A overwhelmingly and one group preferred candidate B overwhelmingly, and those divisions were divided by race, that could be evidence of racially polarized voting. It's not necessarily evidence, but it could be evidence of racially polarized voting. Proof of intent is not required. So a plaintiff wouldn't need to show that long ago a school board adopted an at-large election method as a way to dilute the voting strength of a minority group. It's simply not required. So just that evidence of racially polarized voting is all that is necessary. It's a statistical analysis that requires a demographer, and the litigation in these types of cases effectively becomes a battle of experts. You know, our demographer says this, their demographer says that, and then it's up to the finder of fact to make a decision as to whether racially polarized voting exists. So that's why these cases are a bit of kind of a guessing game in terms of when clients ask us, you know, are we liable? Sometimes it's really hard to say. Sometimes the evidence isn't abundantly clear. Other times the numbers just jump off the page and you can say, yeah, we have a potential problem. So it's important to keep that in mind. It's a significant litigation risk. The California Voting Rights Act does provide for attorney's fees for a plaintiff if they prevail in a case. If a public agency prevails in a case, they do not get to collect their attorney's fees. And so you may have spent, you know, several hundreds of thousands of dollars defending yourself, even more than that potentially, and just come away with a win. And unfortunately, that win is only as good as your next election, because if the statistical data is bad in your next election, you may be liable again. So it's an interesting law. One win does not protect you forever. There's a process that has recently been enacted in the California Voting Rights Act that provides for attorneys to send demand letters to school districts. This is happening across the state. There have been approximately, actually I have it in my notes here, approximately 191 jurisdictions that have actually gone through this process. 131 school districts, 28 cities, 1 county, 27 community college districts, and 8 other special districts. Some districts have done it on their own volition. Others have done it in response to these demand letters. There are multiple groups that send the demand letters, some more scrupulous than others. And so, as you can see at the end on the bullet point here, sending a demand letter does have a financial value to the demanding party. Some of the demanding parties, again, are interested in actual assistance to minority groups that may have vote dilution issues. Other demanding parties are just interested in collecting that $30,000 and moving on to the next jurisdiction. And so you kind of never know what you're going to get. So it's important to keep that in mind. Let's see. We talked about racially polarized voting. What we're looking at is elections in which at least one candidate is a member of a protected class, or elections involving ballot measures or other electoral choices that affect the rights and privileges of protected classes. So when demographers go in and analyze these things, they're looking at school district elections first, because those are the ones that are most important to the district. But then they're looking at elections that touch the boundaries of the district. So it could be city council, it could be congressional, it could be propositions that are controversial. So we're going to look at all of that information and determine whether there's evidence of racially polarized voting. We're going to look at census data because we need that information to determine what the demographics of the district are, what the voting patterns are, things like that. We're going to drill down into voter registration lists if necessary. Well, it is necessary as appropriate, though. And so there's a lot of data compilation that goes into determining whether a district is liable, whether there's a potential risk. Precinct data is also another tool that we use. It's information that we would get from the local registrar of voters to talk about, you know, what are the voter registrations here, and then we can join that with census data to drill down and find out a whole bunch of good information that helps the demographer analyze your elections and helps us determine your risk. If you do that, if you were to decide, hey, we have a potential issue, or if you just decide, hey, we'd like to transition to trustee area elections because we believe that's best for the district, here's the process for doing it. The education code has 3 ways to initiate this process. The most preferred way is, and it's the bolded one, is through a resolution adopted by the board. This method gives the board the most local control over the process, so that at the end of the day, it's the board and it's the community that are determining how this is done, rather than some outside entity such as the county office or some other party. The process requires a multitude of public hearings. So the law has 4 public hearings baked in where the community can come in and provide input. 2 of those public hearings rather have to happen prior to the board drawing any sort of proposed map that would show where the boundary lines would be. The law requires us to seek input on what the community feels like is important when considering drawing a map. So as you'll see in just a minute, we have to take some things into consideration first, some constitutional principles. But after that, you know, things that are important to the community locally could be considered, and if it complies with the Constitution, we could include those considerations as well. Once we've had those first 2 public hearings, then we would draw a map, or multiple maps actually, and on those maps, in addition to the boundaries and population data, we would also show election sequencing. So how many of you were up for election in 2018? Was it 3 of you or 2 of you?
3.
3 of you?
There's 3 new board members. So.
Okay, so 3 of you would show an election again in 2022. 2 of you would show an election in 2020. And depending on where the lines were drawn and where your residences are, we would have to show which trustee areas are up for election and how those scenarios might play out. So that's the election sequencing piece that we would have to show on the maps. Once the maps are published, we would have to hold 2 additional public hearings at a board meeting, or at board meetings rather, where the community would provide input on those maps. And assuming no changes are made, at a final board meeting, a map would be adopted. If changes are made, we just have to publish them for 7 days so that the community can provide feedback. Most school districts publish these maps on their website to allow for 24/7 feedback, and then they also have different community outreach events that are outside of the board meeting setting to allow people to come in, ask questions, provide feedback. And so that's the legal process. When we're drawing maps, we talked about these principles that we have to comply with. The constitutional 1 person, 1 vote principle. So let's say there are 50,000 residents within the Paramount Unified School District. That's babies to 110 years old. We would have to first divide the district up into 5 trustee areas that are as close to 10,000 people in population as possible. We have a variance of up to 10% between the largest and the smallest trustee area. So we first have to do that. Then we have to draw the map and look at communities of interest and make sure that we're not packing a group into one area and diluting their voting strength that way, and to make sure that we're also not separating a group so that it dilutes their voting strength that way. So these are 2 constitutional principles called cracking and packing. Packing means if you have influence across the district, but we just throw you into one area to dilute your voting strength, instead of having influence in 3 districts, you only have influence in 1. That's packing, that's unlawful, we can't do it. And so we look at demographic data to ensure that we're not doing that. And similarly, cracking is taking a group that may be densely populated and drawing a line right down the middle and diluting their voting strength across 2 areas instead of keeping them all in 1. That's another way that you can dilute strength, and that's also unlawful. Once we've made sure that we've complied with those 2 principles, we can look at other things. Natural boundaries, man-made boundaries. We can also look at respecting incumbency. The community has voted the 5 of you into office, and they believe that the 5 of you are the best people to manage the school district. And so if there is a way to preserve the 5 of you without violating any of these other principles and without making it the first priority, that's something that a district can consider. Attendance boundaries, all of those other things can be factored in. I've had school districts use high school attendance boundaries, elementary attendance boundaries as assisting factors in this whole process. We talked about the requirement to publish the maps. Typically, school districts can do that online on their website so that people have a 24/7 presence. And then we also have, like I said, other community input opportunities if people want them. Once we've gone through that whole process, the 4 public hearings, any community input that the board might want to do, in addition to that, at the final meeting in this process, the board adopts a map, and then the board also adopts a resolution saying we're transitioning from at-large to by trustee area elections, and we would like the Los Angeles County Committee on School District Organization to come into our district boundaries and approve our process. That is a required step. So once you get the county committee involved, they come in, they hold a public hearing, and then they pass a resolution. And that resolution approves your process, and the default under the education code is that the county committee calls for an election. And on the question in the election is simple. It's just, should the district transition to by trustee areas, yes or no? And those questions are prescribed by the education code. I don't think I put the questions in here, but in any event, that question has never been put to a vote because there is a process in the education code that allows school districts to seek a waiver of that process. The State Board of Education, at its meetings that happen 4 times a year, has gotten so familiar with this process of seeking a waiver of that unique single election requirement that they put it on their consent calendar. They don't even hear the merits of the waiver anymore. And so the reason for that is there's a lot of risk involved in conducting election. Obviously, it costs a lot of money. And if the community was to say no, and then the district was to get sued under the California Voting Rights Act and there was found to be liability, the district couldn't use that election as a defense. So we wouldn't be able to go into court and say, but Your Honor, our constituents didn't want this. It's not a defense, unfortunately. And so because of the risk involved in the election process and the expense, 100% of school districts have used this waiver process. And I can say 100% because I had one district that was really close to actually taking it to an election. They had the waiver in hand from the state board, but they decided, hey, let's put this to an election. But at the very last minute, they cashed in their waiver and said, never mind, let's just use the waiver. But I was ready to fly up and help them with their election. So you need to be mindful of the State Board of Education's schedule. If you're familiar with their schedule, they do only meet 4 times a year, and you have to give at least 2 months notice if you'd like to be on their agenda. So typically, if a district begins the transition process, I'll be in communication with the liaison up there and say, hey, we're going to have a waiver coming up, and they'll start to help us out. But you just need to be mindful of that. timeline. We typically recommend about 6 months. We have helped school districts do it much faster than 6 months because of demand letters that came in, because of timelines pushing up against candidate filing deadlines and things like that. But you should try to give yourself 6 months if this was something a school district was interested in. Because of the meeting schedules that you will want to have, but also because of the county committee and the State Board of Education, there's a lot of moving pieces to it. So you just want to keep that in mind as well. Regardless of what happens, if the district decides to go to by-trustee area elections, it does not impact any of your terms. So you would continue to serve until your term expires. It just may impact whether you can run for election during the next cycle. So if you're in a trustee area with somebody who has an election in 2022 and your election is in 2020, just depending on sequencing issues, you may not be able to run again until 2022. You may fall off in 2020 and then maybe run again in 2022 and try to come back on. So those are things that we've seen happen. And then other concerns that, you have to update it every 10 years. So there's a census every 10 years. Once that new census data comes out, you have to adjust your boundaries to account for any sort of population shifts. In a community like Paramount, where I don't imagine there's a lot of new construction happening in this area of Los Angeles, similar to like where I live in Riverside, there's not a ton of new construction happening. So the population shifts aren't massive. The lines being moved are not, it's not a great large movement, but in some areas where there's a lot of building going on, it's amazing how much the lines have moved from the 2010 census to now, and what they will look like in the future. And so you just keep that in mind as well, that even if you went through this process now, you'd be readjusting probably in 2021. It's not as labor intensive, it's not as time intensive to do the readjustment. So with that, I'll take any questions. I know I kind of went through that pretty quickly, but I'm happy to take any questions if you have them.
Yeah, you just answered one, but I want to go back to page 6.
Sure.
You were talking about approximately 131 school districts have changed to a trustee area.
Yeah.
Are the majority of them trustee area elected by everyone in the district, or the trustee area elected by everyone just in that trustee area?
That's a great question. So that second method of election that I talked about, the from trustee area election method, that's still an at-large election. And so even though you're dividing up into trustee areas, it does not get you out of liability for purposes of the California Voting Rights Act. So none of my districts that I've helped transition have used that from trustee area election because it doesn't do them any good.
So most of them are from trustee. Say it again, I'm sorry.
All of them that I have assisted have gone from at-large to by trustee area.
By trustee area.
The from trustee doesn't help you out any.
It doesn't,
for
okay.
purposes
Just
of voting
wondered.
rights. No, it's a great question.
Just wondered.
Yeah.
Okay. The rest of them you answered for me. Thank you.
And so,
Sorry.
no, go ahead.
I have a question, because
Sure.
I know the act, the California Voters Act of 2001 came about, but I know we have it where we're at large elections. And so you're basically saying that it's recommended that we move to by trustee area elections. So since it's been quite a while, how is it that school districts go from at large elections to by trustee area elections? Is that because we are trying to move forward to have I guess you would say term limits for us? Is that why it's?
No, the term limits and transition to trustee area, those are two separate and distinct concepts that don't really overlap. The trustee area election transition is to help the district minimize its liability for the type of election method that it uses.
So
term limits would be a local policy issue.
Okay, so then it would have been something that like maybe long time ago should have been done? Because I'm thinking 2001 and it's now 2019, so.
It depends. It depends on what your election history is here. So if there's no evidence of racially polarized voting in this district, then the California Voting Rights Act is not necessarily targeting a district like this. The at-large election method is not diluting voting strength, if that's what the data would show. And so not necessarily. This doesn't mandate that districts change. It just suggests that if there's racially polarized voting, a public agency should change.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So the question is, we can do one or the other, or we can do both. Is that correct? Term
You mean
limits
term limits and yes.
trustee area, we can do
Yeah, but they
either
would be
or both.
two separate processes. The term limit process would also require an election that I don't believe could be waived. And so that would be a situation where there would be a resolution approving term limits, and then there would need to be a measure put on the ballot, and that would be done through the LA County Registrar of Voters and handled that way.
So my understanding is a demographer comes in, he does all his work, and then we get the input of our residents. And what if the residents don't want it? What happens then? Will we still get sued, or does that protect us from being sued, or?
Well, remember, if you were to put the issue to a vote and they turned it down, we couldn't use that as a defense in a lawsuit. So yes, if your community came into your board meetings and overwhelmingly said, no, we don't want this, there still could be liability if there's evidence of racially polarized voting in this district.
Have you had to defend a district that had to go to court to defend that there was not?
I've been doing this for 10 years, and all of my clients have said, let's just transition. One of my partners has gone to court, but it's been on a separate issue, not for a district that said, we're not transitioning, we're going to defend ourselves and say this law doesn't apply to us. It was a separate issue, but still similar kind of arguments were made. But no, school districts, because of the limited resources that school districts have been less apt to fight this, whereas cities have been more willing to fight them, especially cities on the coast. So Santa Monica right now is currently fighting this. Poway, excuse me?
To not transition.
To not transition. Their theory is that no matter how you slice up the district, or the city rather, you can't create what's called a majority-minority area. So the idea behind a majority-minority area is that if you can draw an area where the majority of the voters would be minorities, that's ideal. And since they can't do that, it doesn't really help minority voters in their district. And so they're saying, or in their city rather, so they're saying this law shouldn't apply to us, and so we don't think we should transition. But they have substantial resources that a lot of school districts don't have. And so the challenges we're seeing are coming out of cities right now, not out of school districts.
So as data is collected to determine like how the areas will be divided, how the trustee areas will be divided, I'm concerned as far as like, is it based on how many people could vote? Is it, because I know, as far as I know, I would say at least in the last 10 years, there hasn't been anyone voting or anyone running in our school board. When I canvassed, no one knew what a school board was, and they were across the street.
Yeah.
And they're like, what's that? And so a lot of members of our community are not aware that there is a governing board at the school district. So how does that affect, I mean, does the data reflect that of the school board elections, even though there hasn't been any for 10 years, or would it be just voting in general?
So I think what you're asking is, when we're analyzing elections, what are they analyzing? Yeah, they're analyzing actual results. And so obviously if only 6% of the electorate votes in an election, we have to use that data to make a determination. And there are some small sample size issues that may cause that data to not be as reliable, but we can only go on the results that came in. So how many people voted for candidate A, how many people voted for candidate B? We can't use necessarily the fact that only 6% of the total eligible voters actually voted.
But they're also looking at the census data too.
When we're drawing maps,
When you're
absolutely.
drawing maps.
Yes, and when we're looking at population data for purposes of drawing maps, we're actually looking at 3 population data sets. 2 are actually really important. 1 is total population. That's how we divide the district into 5 areas. But then once we're deciding, does this map comply with the Federal Voting Rights Act, and can we draw that majority-minority area? We're looking at what's called citizens voting age population. And it's not your 18 plus population. It's actually more refined than that. And it's basically a really, really good and court reliable estimate on how many eligible voters you have in your district. And so those are the two most important population data sets that we use when we're drawing maps. But with respect to the question about what do we look at when we're analyzing election results, it's really just the results and how many, who voted for which candidate.
And that's being very specific and clear, that's for the school board.
That's when we're looking at school board elections, but we do also look at the outside elections too to see if there's evidence there as well. So city council, water district,
because
anything
we have
like
5 cities that feed into our
Right.
school district.
Right.
Yeah, so. yeah.
So also, you mentioned the census, so you would take data based on the census. So then if we do go to trustee areas, based on the census every 10 years, would that demographic area change, the trustee areas?
It could. You depending on the mobility in your community, the age changes in your community, all of that could change where lines are. But in these communities, in this part of LA and in most of the Southland, there's not massive line changing as every 10 years. It's only in those really high growth areas where you see lines dramatically move from census to census.
And then also, and I think you already mentioned it, but I know you went rather fast.
Sorry.
And there's people that are going to be watching this or are watching it now.
Sure.
And for them to comprehend. So when the, let me see, how do I even explain this? Because I know I asked for the data, how it's broken. As a resident, I'm concerned with the demographics and thinking of the minority, majority, because we are divided rather uniquely, I would say. Like we have people that are in Lakewood that don't necessarily, like the demographics don't represent our demographic. But it will come to me when I can't think of the correct question to reiterate.
I do have another question. Let's just say three residents want to run for school board and they live around the same boundaries. What happens then?
Well, if they live within the same trustee area, they would all run against each other.
They run against each other.
Okay. Yeah. Even if it's current board members, they would run against each other?
Yes.
Okay, I thought they couldn't. Okay.
I have a question. Would only their name be on that ballot for that area?
Your name would only be on the ballot for the area in which you reside. So if your area was not up, I don't know why I'm looking up. I'm glad you're here. I'm sorry for just looking at the speaker when I'm talking to you. But if your trustee area was not up for election in that year, your name would not be on the ballot because you wouldn't need to be running at that time. Does that answer your question?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. Robbins, as questions may come up later, and I'm not stopping the question process now, but I'm just saying as questions may come up later, can the board, can I collect them and send them to you for the board to answer?
Yes, absolutely.
As a follow-up?
Sure.
What happens if you do the districts? And as it was mentioned, we do have Lakewood, we do have North Long Beach, we do have Southgate, we do have Paramount, and in Paramount, actually we live in Paramount. And let's just say that the trustee areas are broken up to say Lakewood and North Long Beach, and then let's just say Paramount. I'm just exaggerating over here, and Southgate. What if there's nobody that wants to run in those other districts, but there are people who want to run in the city of Paramount? What happens then?
Under a bi-trustee area election system, in order to be eligible as a candidate, you must reside within that trustee area boundary. So your job as board members, if you were to transition, would be to build connections in those communities and encourage people to run. And, if we're unable to find people to run, the board would, if somebody doesn't run, let's say that the ticket is empty, then the board would have to appoint for what's called failure to elect. And so you would need to go out and find somebody who'd be willing to serve as a board member, and then the board would appoint that person. It happens not as often as one would think, but it does happen. Some of my districts in the Inland Empire experienced that probably with the first cycle of trustee area voting. I think it's gotten better because we had to do it in those districts a long time ago. We were getting a lot of pressure back in the early 2010, 2011, 2012. So we're all done out there for the most part. But the districts here in this part of LA and some parts of San Bernardino County as well, they're still working on it. So you may experience that in a first cycle, but I think as it gets more familiar and people get used to it, it might not be such a problem.
So when you say you appoint someone, is it by an application process or how, I mean, because there's 5 boards on your house.
It would, I mean, have you appointed somebody on this board recently? Okay,
No.
so the process, there's no real process in the education code for how a board appoints. The board can choose how it interviews candidates and things like that. There are some mandated notice requirements, but in terms of what the board does to determine who the best candidate is, that's all controlled locally. So you can interview people however you want. You can screen people in limited ways, but you can still do that screening process to make sure they live within the appropriate area, and then interview them either by committee or as a whole board, which would have to be an open session and all that sort of stuff. So.
Thank you.
So then would you recommend policy for that? That way we know there's a procedure to follow?
I would have to look at your policies to see if there is an existing policy. Some boards have like an existing how we do things for vacancies. I didn't see it in your bylaws when I was scrolling through them earlier today, but maybe there are some. I would recommend it, but it's something that can be done pretty quickly in the event that you suffer a vacancy for whatever reason. We can help you with that process pretty quickly, or other legal counsel can help you with that pretty quickly. So.
But it can be added to the bylaws. That way there's no questions asked later.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions?
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Robinson, would you be able to stay for the next presentation in case it leads to questions in your area? Because even though the term limits and trustee areas are 2 different things, because of this board's consideration, there's some overlapping questions.
Yeah.
So board members, the next presentation is based on a request that you had made to bring forward to you the questions from Provolowski, who is the selected research review survey company, to do the questions of the community on term limit and trustee areas. So part of the agreement was that we would bring the questions forward to you for approval first. So we sent that last Wednesday for your perusal. I believe that there are 22 questions. This evening you have an opportunity to discuss those, and if with your approval we could move forward with a contract for implementation of this survey in our community or not. You will be voting on this as part of an action item this evening. I'll turn it over to you, Madam President.
Yes, I have a question, but I don't know if any of you have questions on this.
No, I don't have any questions.
I have a question. Will you be answering the questions, or who will be answering?
Frutos.
Oh, Frutos, okay. On page, and of course this says confidential, so I'm not going to go into it, but on page 1, number 3, it says here are some more background on term limits. It says the holding of elections of voters is decided whether to impose term limits on Board of Education members would cost Paramount Unified School District as much as $100,000. How much is that true? Does it cost $100,000 to put it on the ballot if we're going to also have if we're going to have an election for board members?
You know, we allowed the the survey company, because they do surveys with a lot of elected offices in California, to use their data. So this is their estimate.
Okay.
What we could do is get an average from the local elections office to see what local elections typically cost. I know that when we did an estimate for the last election, it wasn't too far from that amount, but the entire survey was developed by Provolsky, and they are a local firm, and they work with a lot of elections. So that is their estimate.
Because my concern is if you put this out to the voters this way, they're going to be really concerned on the amount of money we're spending on this. And it's under my assumption, and I may be wrong, but I don't think it would cost $100,000. But I'm not, I'm not a professional on knowing all this information.
And the board has the right to ask any questions. So one option, if the board were to decide, we can ask Provolsky's firm to give you a justification and either adjust or modify the question. That's the purpose of today.
Okay.
So whatever direction you give the superintendent, we'll ask the firm to modify, give justification, or whatever is your pleasure.
That makes sense. And then my question is, on top of that, there is a board election that same year. So does that increase the cost because there'd be two items on the ballot in 2020 for trustees and for the term limits?
So if I can rephrase the question from the board, we will ask if the cost of an election approximates 100,000, and because there is an election of the board on that time, if they can give us a total amount with both items on the ballot.
Correct.
Is that okay? Okay.
Correct. And then on number 2, I'm assuming that that's what the board will decide on later. As if the election were held today, one of the questions, how would you vote on the measure that reads, Board of Education term limits? Shall the total amount of time a person can serve on the Paramount Unified School District Board election is limited to 8 years? That's highlighted. I'm assuming that the board is going to say either 8, 12, and would you say that you would definitely vote yes or no or probably?
You're absolutely correct. The firm gave you an amount of time that is on several questions, including 2, 10, and I believe 11, 12, for you to consider based on their past experience. But if the board were to select a different number, that number would be added to the survey instead of the 8 years, and that's what the community would be surveyed on. So that's, again, the purpose of tonight, for you to give us final direction on the survey, and that's how the survey will go out to the community. In addition to that, remember that they gave us an estimate based on a certain time and number of questions.
Correct.
So if there are revisions, they will revise the amount, and I will provide that to you as quickly as possible.
I'm wondering from the board, their opinion on having 23 questions asked versus the, there's a page here, sorry. I saw it. What page is that? I saw it, where's the cost and the amount of?
The cost is over here
No,
on a
this
different
page, this page.
document.
What page is
Yes,
it?
right here.
What page is that? Approximately 35 questions. To me, that's an awful lot of questions to ask just about term limits in the city of Paramount.
It says 23. I'm sorry, what did you say? How many?
Right here where it's highlighted, page 14.
Yeah.
They're highlighting, they're letting us, I guess, choose, but I just wanted to bring that up, that I noticed that the highlighting, page 14.
Yes, currently though, they gave you 20.
Yeah, but we only have
23.
23.
Right.
That's what they're asking us to look at, not that many.
Right, so the amount would be, the total amount would be revised down because the board had authorized for them to develop a questionnaire with up to 35 questions.
Okay.
They came back with a questionnaire, I believe it's 23, including one that's demographic at the end, which may or may not be considered a question. So they will be revising based on that.
Okay. I think when they met with us, or there's the materials beforehand, I think they also mentioned that as part of the question about how many years could a board member serve, also after being off the board for one term, they could come back. I don't know if anybody wanted to consider that or not. They didn't put anything in here like that. I just didn't want it to get past anybody in case.
So being more specific as to what does the 8 years consist is like, you could do 4 years now and then down the line 4 more years, or is it, 8 years and then you stop 2 years and you do 8 more years? Is that what you're referring to?
No, I'm saying that if it's limited to 8 years, but they also mention in their materials that sometimes that cities or boards look at 8 years, and then if you go off for 4 years, you could come back for another 8 years. I don't know if you guys want to consider that or not.
Right, so.
I just brought it up because they mentioned it.
Right. So what Board Member Hanson is correct. They did say that the board gets to decide on what we want in the policy or in the questionnaire, or in the, once we make a final decision, is we can say, like Board Member Hanson said, we serve 8 years and that's it. No more coming back to the board. You're done. Let new people run for office, or we say we run 8 years off 4 years, meaning a term, and then you can re-elect for another 8 years. We can actually choose from 8 years or 12 years, depending on what we decide to do. But I think that's what Board Member Hanson's referring to. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. So yes, we do get to choose that after and the policy or the.
So the question is, would you want that as a question for Probowski to include, right? It's up to the board.
Yeah, that's entirely up to you. We can ask the survey company to add a question based on your discussion. I would just need a little bit of a parameter as to how you'd like to ask it. They can add it. You're still within the number of questions that the quote provided.
Just a quick, if we did not add it to the question, the board has the right to make that decision at the end, correct? Without asking that question to the voters.
Yes, actually the survey is to give you feedback.
Correct.
The
If they
survey
want to.
carries absolutely no legal obligation to
Right.
you. And I'm looking from the side to an attorney that might be giving us free advice that a survey carries no legal obligation. It's merely advisory to you. You can choose to, I'm pretty certain, by the way.
Okay.
So, yes, you're absolutely right, Ms. Gomez.
Okay.
So in other words, like, we could ask, a question could be stated like, if you were to have term limits, would you limit it to 8 years, 12 years, 14 years? Like, we could have that where it gives the community a say, so not, I don't want to just impose a particular year. And then we can kind of, I guess, reconvene and decide, well, most people, there was maybe, let's say there's a tie between 8 and 12, we'll figure out, which is best.
It's just giving us a sense of the community wants term limits. That's why we're doing this, because the last time we voted, we didn't come into consensus, so we figured let our community know, because since I walked the precincts, I've heard that's what they wanted. So in order to be fair, let the community decide, and if they say yes, then we can make our own judgment of how many years or what we need to do.
So the survey really could say just term limits. It doesn't have to say the years. Is that correct?
Yeah.
It is truly up to your discretion.
I mean, would that solve our problem? Would that make it easier for us to understand if the community says yes, they believe in term limits? Then we would know, and then we could,
You could. You wouldn't get any feedback on a number.
4, 8, 10, 12, whatever.
I think that's fair, because most of the community probably doesn't know what 8, 12 years, or what does that consist of?
I mean, I would ask them to make sure that it's okay with the survey group, if that makes sense to them, to just not put a year in there. Just a suggestion.
Because like number 9 on page 3, it says if term limits are imposed on the Board of Education, they could be a 1 term, 4 years, 2 terms, 8 years, or 3 terms. How many years should a board member be allowed to
Very
serve?
good, yeah.
Oh, there you go.
There you go. Okay, that takes care of that. Cool.
I mean, at the
It's
same,
already there, yeah.
at the same token, if you get a tie, then the board has to make the decision anyway.
Yeah, that works. So then number 2 would not have 8 years written in there.
Correct.
Number 10 would
Yeah,
not
they wouldn't
8.
have any, yeah. I mean,
And that may change 11 and 12.
That's why I'm thinking if we have less questions than 25, because what we're trying to just find out is if the community wants term limits.
Yeah.
That's the number one ultimate goal we want. And so if we have these many questions, I think we should probably even go to less questions no, it's a 12 question. It's either 12, 20, approximately 12, approximately 25, 35. I would say the 12. I mean, it's up to a discussion here, but I think a 12 question for our community, to my point of view, would be the best.
Well, I like that they explain, in depth what that means, what term limits mean. I like those questions.
Right. I mean, that could be included in the 12
We
questions.
could possibly, well, if it's possible, I would agree with the 12 questions, because not everyone has time, and how we hold the company accountable to really have gathered the data. Not everyone has time to answer a lot of questions, and as looking at our demographics in our community, not everyone's willing to answer questions to someone that they don't know. So I think we have to be considerate of that, and then perhaps we could have like a study session where we talk, and then there's more community input.
I would actually offer a different point. I think us asking these questions gives us a clearer picture. So I know it's a lot, but it's giving us a more clear picture of what exactly the community wants. So 12 is fine, but I think the 25, more data, the more data, the better. Because then we can clearly understand what the community wants.
But sometimes the more questions you ask, the person gets lost. And you're gonna make this also in Spanish for our Hispanic community. And I think that the more questions we ask, the more confused people will get. So the more concise question, the limited questions we have, I think that would be the best decision, but it's up to the board.
Then I would argue that whoever asks the questions right, someone who's patient, someone who's asking the questions the right way, I don't see why the community would be opposed to that. That's just my
I
thoughts.
agree with that, because I think some of these questions, they go into depth so someone understands what they're answering. That's what I liked about this survey, because they literally explained, what trustee areas mean and what other people have said about it. I don't have a problem with these questions. I'm just concerned about saying the number.
Well,
I don't either. Excuse me, I don't either. I don't have a problem with the questions. And if we did change it to just 12, how would we decide on which 12 we wanted in there? Would we all agree on that?
I would agree on that.
Well, there's some questions like, do you have children at 18 living in your household? Most of our community who pay for bond measure I don't have children, and do we really care if they have children or not? So there are some questions that you can definitely take away, but then my question would be, there's 24 questions, and knowing my community and knowing people who speak Spanish, we tend to speak a lot more, or we might want to reiterate. So I don't know how long it'll take. So that's something that if that person, the researcher would have been here, or somebody from the company to represent and say, approximately how long does it take? And average, how many people do answer the calls? And how can we be assured that the amount of calls are really true measure of what the community stated?
And actually, you have that information. If you look at the number of questions, they already gave you how many minutes it would take, because it's within the quote, and they already gave you a measurement of error of 5.58. So statistically speaking, you have all the information. My only question to you is, you are asking two different topics, trustee areas and term limits, and whether 12 questions can capture all the information you need for two topics. Would be fine. So one option is that we recommend to the research firm, can this survey be done in 12 questions, and give you a response within the next day or two.
I thought that this questionnaire was only for term limits, because they're two separate They're two separate items.
Well, they're both included. If you look at the
Yeah, no, I
question,
saw that. I mean, I was just,
Yeah,
I don't know why I was under that
Well,
impression.
we could just decide to go with term limits and not do the other. I mean, that would narrow it down.
I would say,
again, it's
Yeah,
entirely
but
up to you.
I would agree to that.
Okay,
And that
so-
way we can we can keep the questions that go in depth. I don't know how anybody else feels about that, but
So that would certainly reduce them significantly. So far, I want to capture what the board is saying. We are going to tell the demographer, the statisticians that trust the area questions only.
only.
We are saying no
Term
to the
limits.
Term limits only.
Term limits.
term limits only.
Yeah, term
Yes,
limits.
term
only.
limits.
Term limits only. A no to the number of years stipulated in the 4 questions so that it's open-ended.
Correct. And the amount of,
Questions to be reduced to no more than 12.
correct? And also if they can get back with us to see how much does it cost.
Well, it'd be less than the 24,000.
It actually will fall under the first line of,
The, no, the other, the 100,000.
oh, absolutely. We already have it. The cost and what happens with one election and 2 elections.
Yeah.
Correct, because we will be having an election.
Do you know how long before they'll get back to us?
They've been fairly responsive. They are doing
apparently
apparently several right now, but so far they've been responding within a couple of days.
Okay.
So if they respond, we'll send them to the superintendent to distribute to the board immediately.
So can you just repeat it? That way I can take a.
I can.
You said I could take a vote just to make sure that we're all in agreement with what we just heard?
So that we are going to ask that the survey is only for term limits, no more questions for trustee areas, that it's limited to no more than 12 questions, that the years stipulated in 4 of the questions are removed, so no to a number of years so that it's more open-ended, and that the cost of the election is estimated for us, and including the cost of the reality of the election next year, which is 2 elections.
Perfect.
I have a question, Mr. Frutos, in terms of the action item this evening, they are going to vote on it. So we would bring back revised questions so that the board wants to see those questions. So we would have to bring it to the first meeting in June for them to vote upon a new contract, correct?
We would need, if the board wants to review them again, we don't have a choice. So we would bring it back to you for the next board meeting, you take action, and then the survey begins,
Absolutely.
if that's okay with the board.
Are we all in agreement to this?
Yes.
I'm good.
Linda?
Yes.
Okay. So yes, Mr. Frutos, if you can please do that.
We'll come back to you as quickly as possible.
So the action item this evening, we will,
It can be suspended and moved to the next meeting.
okay.
Alrighty.
Thank you, board members. So that concludes the superintendent's report.
Perfect. Thank you. Now we're going to go to board meeting calendar. Any additions to or changes in the regular meeting and/or special meeting calendar will be discussed. Does that go
Yes.
with moving?
Yes, you requested, Madam Board President, to move superintendent's evaluation to a different date than this evening because of course, the length of our closed session. So I checked with the facilitators, and they are available on June 3rd or 4th. So you can call a special meeting beginning at 5:30 on June 3rd or 4th if the board would like to look at the, and it's usually 2 meetings. They ask for at least 2 meetings, but we're just scheduling the first one, and then the second one after that would be scheduled before the end of June.
You know what day those fall on? That's what I was looking for.
I can find out right now.
I think that's a Monday and Tuesday.
Do we know?
I'll tell you right now. June 3rd is on a Monday, and June 4th, of course, is on a Tuesday. I don't see anything in the evenings that would prevent that.
Is the board, first I need discussion. Any discussions on June 3rd or June 4th?
I'm fine with either of them.
Sonia?
Yeah, fine.
Yesenia?
Either.
Linda?
No, I'm fine with that.
Okay, so I guess, can they be back to back? Since it's 2 days, you said it's 2 days?
You may want to give yourself, I
Okay.
think, some time to read through it
Okay, perfect.
Yeah, so you may want to have one week and then.
Okay, we'll make
another
decision at
week.
that
It
time.
depends on how the first one goes.
Okay.
All right.
So well, I guess, Monday is, Mondays, I guess. So we'll do it Tuesday, the 4th. May I have a motion to make a change to the superintendent's evaluation meeting for Tuesday, June 4th?
Actually, you're adding a
sorry.
special meeting.
I'm adding a special meeting.
Yes, on either June 3rd or 4th.
On June 3rd or 4th, but I believe we came in consensus that either or would work. So instead of doing the Monday, is everybody okay with the Tuesday? May I have a motion for June 4th, Tuesday, June 4th, for a special meeting on the calendar? Sorry, we still need the time, either 5:30 or 6. What?
Either time works for me.
Board Member Hanson, 5:30 or 6?
Anything's good.
Justine? Same. Okay, so we'll do 5:30 that way.
Garcia, did you have?
Oh, Garcia, sorry, Garcia. Linda, 5:30 or 6?
I'm gonna say 5:30, hopefully I'll be home.
Okay, perfect. We hope so too. Okay, so I need a motion to have the special meeting on Tuesday, June 3rd at 5:30 PM.
You moved, right?
Yes.
I'll second.
Oh, Yesenia 40 made the motion, Vivian Hanson second, and Isela, can you please do a vote?
Yes. Governing Board Member Garcia?
Yes.
Governing Board Member De Leon?
Yes.
Governing Board Member Hanson?
Yes.
Governing Board Member 40?
Yes.
And Governing Board Member Gomez?
Yes. So let me write this down, okay. Okay, so now we're going to hearing section. Persons wishing to address the board should fill out a blue card located at the table by the door and submit the completed card to the secretary. Speakers will be called in a sequence during the hearing section, which is limited to 1 hour and each speaker to one presentation of 3 minutes unless the board wishes to waive the time limit. The board cannot engage in public discussion during this portion of the agenda. Government Code Section 54950-54963. Staff will follow up and address public inquiries. Those who have a group concern are encouraged to select a spokesperson to address the board. Persons wishing to address the board on a specific agenda item at the time of the item is under discussion are limited to 3 minutes each and will be called to speak following the staff comments and prior to the board's discussion and taking action. So, okay. So we do have a couple. First, we're going to go with the location of Linda Garcia. His name is Julio Flores, and it doesn't say what he wants to speak about, right? Okay. So is Julio there, Board Member Garcia?
Actually, he already left.
Oh, he left.
Yeah.
Okay. No worries. Well, we tried to give him his time. Thank you very much. Now we'll go with Heather Van Edie.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Hope you're all doing lovely. All right, good evening, President Gomez, board members, superintendent, president, executive cabinet, and all of you that are still here this evening. As someone who was born and raised in Paramount and went through the Paramount system, I've always been proud to call myself a pirate. As Ms. Salcedo said earlier, once a pirate, always a pirate. And I do apologize, I'm reading from my phone so that I can. I've always been impressed with how the teachers in this community work so hard to help inspire our future leaders, creators, and innovators. Teachers are the lifeblood of any good school district, and it is so important for everyone to be on the same team with the same agenda, our students. Our recent letter, which was solely for the Day of the Teacher from the board, was a bit disheartening. For the first time ever, it made me feel like perhaps our agendas are not the same. I am concerned. It is the teachers and our students' success in the classroom that should be priority. The vote against does not make me feel fully supported. I hope that you can understand how upsetting it is as a teacher to see the lack of support. Thank you so much for your time. Enjoy your evening. And I do know that it was brought up earlier, but I just want to make sure that I made myself very clear this evening that as someone who was, like I said, born and raised in Paramount, I think it's super important that our teachers are encouraged and supported and they're what makes this district go round, and they're what get our kids educated and make our kids better. So thank you. Enjoy your evening.
Thank you, Heather. Now we'll go at the speaker, Dr. Rodolfo Cortez, air pollution.
Good evening, board members, especially President Gomez. So I'd like to, first of all, so it's been about 6 months since, we had 3 new board members, and I want to say thank you for doing something that, politicians don't usually do, and that is stick by their campaign promises. The discussion that we just saw about term limits really illustrates that. Ms. Gomez went around, and the people obviously want term limits. We're always criticizing the fact that politicians, once they're in there, they stay there for decades. We're a country that fought a war of revolution, right, against political monocratic, aristocracy, right? So we're supposed to stand up for democracy. That means giving more people more opportunities to do things for their communities, such as serving on the board. So thank you, President Gomez, for really pushing this issue. I also want to thank Vice President Cuarenta, because she also brought up some issues that have not been talked about. So like there's a diversity of students, for example. On her Facebook page, she posted about how there's been research on how undocumented students are really essentially being terrorized psychologically by the larger context. We talk about education, improving learning outcomes and all of that, but obviously there's a larger context that is terrorizing a segment of students. And thank you for talking about that during the campaign and once you were in office. Thank you so much for that. And thank you all for pushing for this accountability and transparency. And because the community may not know about all the details that are involved in in government. So thank you for educating them. I want to talk about one issue that all 3 of the new board members shared in their campaigns, and I hope that they keep pushing. So that has to do with the issue of pollution. So all 3 of the board members that were new and elected, they ran on being eco-friendly, eco-conscious. They wanted a healthy environment, which I think we can all agree with. And they all posted online, and they talked with the community about the the really immediate need to clean up our environment so that we can have better outcomes for everybody, health outcomes, education outcomes, learning outcomes. There's studies that they cited and still cite about how pollution affects children's learning. And I wanted to share another study that I saw just a couple of days ago, make sure they had heard about it, from Professor Caleb Finch at USC. He talks about dementia, how pollution is producing dementia. He said that there is no doubt about it. That was in Wired magazine. So it's very important that the board keeps pushing on that particular issue for K through A education. So I want to thank them again for running on those principles. So I hope they keep going. So thank you.
Thank you, Rodolfo. Next one will be Yvonne Chirino, Educación, about education.
Buenas noches, board, superintendentes y la comunidad. Yo soy padre activista en Lenox y parte del sur de la bahía. Espero que todos entiendan. Voy a hablar en español.
Señora, quisiéramos poder traducir en inglés porque no todos hablan aquí en
No
español,
hablo inglés.
pero podemos ayudarle. Viviana,
Claro.
can you translate for her?
¿Puede repetir su nombre, por favor?
Mi nombre es Ivonne Chirino, soy activista en el sur de la bahía.
She is an activist of the South Bay, and her last name is Chirino.
Sí, lo que me trae a hoy es una preocupación que últimamente han salido unos artículos de la Nota Roja en el Daily Breeze.
That she is concerned with regards to some articles that she's seen on the Daily Breeze, and is with regards to red flags.
Incluyendo el distrito unificado de Centinela Valley.
Including the Centinela Valley.
Y estos dos distritos vecinos tienen en común con este distrito que tienen la misma la firma de abogados.
That district also has the same firm of lawyers as us.
Y la nota que han sacado últimamente es que dos superintendentes, uno de Lenox y uno de Centinela Valley,
And the note that came out is that two superintendents, one of Lenox and the other one of the Centinela Valley,
están bajo la lupa de la corrupción.
Are under the magnifying glass of corruption.
Y nomás quiero que pongan atención a su firma de abogados porque curiosamente son las mismas que tienen ellos.
And they would like for you to keep an eye on the law firm that you use because it's the same one that they are using.
Y yo soy activista también aquí en Paramount. Nosotros defendemos el aire contaminado.
And she's also an activist here in Paramount, and she is fighting for clean air or the pollution of it.
Y también nos concentramos en la comunidad, y los educamos y vamos a estar aquí.
They concentrate on educating the community with regards to the pollution, and they'll be here.
Gracias.
Thank you.
Thank you. Gracias. Next speaker would be Sarah Hueso, School Issues.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Sarah Patricia Hueso. I am a member of Social Equal Education. I'm also a resident of Paramount, and my children attend this district. I wanted to talk about environmental racism. Environmental racism is the placement of people into environmentally hazardous areas, or conversely, the placement of environmental hazards into areas with high numbers of minorities or economically destitute populations. As you all know, I've been here very concerned regarding the air, regarding the water and the soil in our city. And our children are going through environmental racism. If you think about it, there's so many metal forging companies very close to our schools. There's a medical incinerator, there's a refinery, all in Paramount. So I'm very concerned, and I am asking the new board members to push and make sure that all schools get better air filters, better air purifiers. Now, in regards to water, I know that there's an assembly bill that just came up. It's Assembly Bill AB 746, which requires that all schools get tested for lead. All schools that were built before 2010. Now, it says that community water systems to test the lead levels of drinking water at all California public schools and preschools and child daycare facilities located on public school property by July 1st, 2019. It's already mid-May. I want to know, did you guys do the testing yet? What have you found out? And how are you guys going to address this issue? I know there's a lot of districts out there that have already tested, and I want to know if you guys, as a parent, as a community stakeholder, I want to know if you guys already have those test results. I also know that you guys applied for a grant at the Central Basin Water Board, and I wanted to know what that grant is for. So if you can please give me that information, that would be greatly appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you. The next one would be Edna Ibarra, term limits.
Good evening. My name is Edna. I wasn't prepared to speak today, but I was very interested in the term limits conversation that came up today with the ladies on the board. I am a resident of a neighbor city, and I've been a teacher in the South Bay for 25 years. I did attend, as of late, my children's board meeting with the Downey Unified School District, and I was shocked to realize that the president there in Downey has been on the board for over 30 years. And he even joked about it, and he said that he's been on the board since before the 105 freeway was built. And so my question is, or my comment is, when is 30 years plus too long? I am glad that you ladies have accepted the conversation over term limits. Even the president gets 2 terms of 4 years, and I think 8 years of a board member is quite enough time. So anyone serving close to 30 years, I think, should step down. Another issue that I want to bring up is kind of the recognition that was given to the students that I'm very proud of here that received proficiency or exceeding proficiency. I'm very proud of the students here in Paramount, but I didn't like the label used. I think that you guys said lower income Latino.
That's what they use. So.
I don't appreciate that term, and I think it should be called socioeconomic disadvantaged, and maybe say ELL or English language learner, not lower income Latino. I can't believe that the superintendent didn't pick that one up myself. And I also agree with, I think, Ms. Hueso, who spoke before about the environment, and we need answers to the questions as to have you guys have results, have you guys started testing, and what you're going to do about that. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Edna. I guess those are all the blue cards we have. The gentleman taking photos, we're not saying not to take photos, but I guess the flash, if you can not use the flash, I appreciate it. Thank you. Okay, so and so there's no more blue cards, so that's okay. So now we're going to the next item on the agenda, which is the consent items. These items are considered routine and may be enacted by a single motion. Any items needing discussion may be moved to the appropriate section of the agenda upon the request of any member of the board. So do we have any discussions before I make okay, I make the motion first, and then at the end I do the vote. May I have a motion to move the consent to approve the consent items?
Is Linda still there?
Linda?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, okay. I heard a chime. I thought maybe she.
Yeah, we kind of got disconnected for a minute.
Oh, okay.
May I have a motion for the consent items?
Is there a reason you ladies are not moving, or you're just sitting? I'll move.
Vivian Hansen made the motion. May I have a second?
I'll second.
Linda Garcia would second. Now, any discussions? So no, Isela, can you?
Yes. Good morning, Board Member Garcia.
Well,
can you repeat?
I had,
I asked.
are we on the general session services for consent, right?
We're at consent.
I'm sorry?
We're taking a vote for consent items.
Oh, I think she has a question, right?
Oh, do you have a question?
Yes, she has a question.
Well, I just had a question on the, on item 1.1-C for the professional activity report, 18 to 12-12, for Ms. Gomez. I just was wondering if, I don't know if I just feel this way, but that you should attend 2 meetings back to back, 2 conferences. I'm not really sure how anybody else feels about that.
This was,
On page 27,
27? That's,
28,
27,
27 and 28.
27, 28? This is the Turnaround Arts Partnership, that was a grant, right? Do I remember correctly? That was a grant that we had?
Yes. We actually have the grant.
We have the grant.
Yes. It's providing half a teacher of the arts at Zamboni Middle School, as well as other supports for the arts.
Well, I see that the item number 1, that 1.2-C is for teachers, and I didn't know why she wanted to attend that one, like if it's meant for teachers. Carmen?
Should I answer that?
Ms. Gomez?
Yes, I'm here. I just want to make sure that our superintendent didn't want to say something. I was actually invited to go with Principal Sue, Assistant Principal Kim, and Counselor Tamara to go to the national, you're questioning, the Turnaround Arts. And since I'm already flying out there, I thought it would be a good idea to go learn more about the Turnaround Arts and what it does for our school district.
I understand that. I mean, I'm all for you going to the recognition for the Zamboni school. I'm all for that. I was just questioning on the Turnaround Arts Partnership is actually for teachers.
Right, but I was invited. They actually have 4 spots, and I was invited, and I said, sure, why not? I want to go learn more. So that's why it's on the calendar, on the consent calendar rather.
So you're already in Virginia, right?
I'm already there.
Okay.
The flight's already paid for because I'm already there.
Just to clarify, Dr. Perez, grant means that it's paid for already, right? So the money's already available, is that what it means?
Not, not for the,
Yes.
President Gomez?
Yes.
I understand that you're already going to be there because you're already having your flight paid. But the actual conference and for you staying at the hotel is still going to be $2,600 more.
Well, I think it'll probably be a little less than that, but they budget that just to make sure, I guess they're within budget, but yes, you are correct. How does the rest of the board feel?
Could somebody just tell me where the
It's on page 27.
No, I have that one. It's where the school is going, Zamboni. I know it was in here. I've lost my place.
47.
Page what? 47.
27 and 28, Ms. Hanson?
No, that one I have. It's just that I know there was wasn't there an action item for the rest of, for the schools to go, for Zamboni to go for their recognition and how many people were going?
47, 48.
That's what I'm looking for. I'm
That's under
lost.
consent,
Somebody help me.
47,
47.
Say it again?
47.
Thank
Page
you.
47, no? Just page 47.
Thank you.
Yeah. 47, 48.
There we go.
So the conference from June 26 to 29 at Arlington, Virginia, you're going with the superintendent, correct?
That's correct.
And then this other conference
It's 3
would
days
be
before.
prior to that conference.
That's correct.
Now, how many people were going to go in originally?
Originally, they have 4 spots. 3 people were going to go. Since they had the 4th spot, they invited the president of the board.
So in other words, it's not an addition to.
When you say addition to?
Like in
no,
addition
the
to,
three-
okay, if there's 4 spots, we're not adding you another spot for you, right?
No, there is 4 spots available. 3 are actually paid through the Turnaround Arts, where it's for the principal, the assistant principal, and the counselor. They had an extra spot, but without paying the airfare and the travel expenses. But since they invited me, I asked Superintendent Dr. Perez to please put it on the consent because I would like to go and learn more about our Turnaround Arts program with the schools. Since I was already going, I thought this was an opportunity to go learn more. That's the only reason why I asked, because I was invited. If I was not invited, I would not be on this consent calendar. I would not be asking, can I please go with them? I'm asking because I was invited. If I was not invited, this would never even be on the consent form.
So in other words, if a teacher went, would it cost the same or no?
They're not paying.
No, because there's no cost.
There's no cost to the teachers.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's a question.
Okay, so then as a board member, then there is a cost because they're not the teacher.
Correct.
Yes.
Correct.
And that is approximately $2,600 for her to attend the Turnaround Arts Partnership, which, you know, I think it's great she got invited, but we're already paying $22,300 for her to attend the Zamboni, which I think is wonderful if she goes because we're so proud of them and all the work that they have accomplished.
But otherwise, the airfare, like when you get there or not, you're still going to pay for the airfare the same. I mean.
That's correct.
No, she'll be paying for her hotel. We'll be paying for her hotel and the cost of the conference.
Okay. And what's the cost of the conference?
Viviana, you booked it. I don't know. Do you remember?
It's $1,499, and that includes after the fact. You know how we were going back and forth with Principal Psychology? It's $1,499, and it includes the retreat, it includes the meals, and it includes the lodging. Prior to us getting confirmation that lodging was going to be included, we assumed that we were going to have to pay for lodging. So we did the budget assuming that we were going to pay for some nights at the hotel. And then after the fact, we learned that lodging was in fact going to be covered with the registration of $1,499. So it reduced the overall expense for that part of the trip to less than that.
So instead of 2,600, it's 1,500. Okay.
2,300 to 1,500, right?
26.
Oh, no, this is
26.
this is the wrong one.
The next one, yeah.
Okay. 1,500.
I'm sorry, so it would change the 2,600 to what?
Around
1,500.
Around 1,800.
Around 1,800, thank you. I'm going to say because the principal invited her to go, and I know that she will come back and share with us what she has learned, because it's all something that we can take advantage of. I would be okay with this.
I would be okay with it too, but I think it needs to be clear, I guess, for principals to not invite someone if later on then it's going to cost the board member, and then we're embarrassed the front and you're like, oh, I didn't know, I'm gonna.
Yeah,
I agree.
I
So
agree.
we will
Yeah, I
share
think
that
that
message
this,
with all
yeah, if she
principals.
invited, I mean, I think we should, Linda, I think I would say, I would let her do that, and she will bring back information to share with all of us.
Absolutely.
So that we'll have a better idea.
Okay, yeah, I was just questioning that, and I didn't realize that she didn't say that she had been invited.
Yeah, I didn't know
by
either.
Teachers or principals, so, okay.
Yeah, I will definitely bring back everything I learned and bring you guys material back to share.
Okay, great. Thank you, Ms. Gomez.
Thank you.
I had a question on page 74. It's just about the math course books. These are hard copy books we're having to replace. 2,680 and 2,020 books.
What item is it, ma'am?
Halfway down, it's 1902139 and 2140. It's the math books for Ed Services K-8. Somebody can,
Those are your
JC books, 11,000.
yeah.
In the middle of the page.
In the middle of the page.
139 JC books.
Those are consumables.
Oh, these are consumables. Okay,
Sorry,
thank you.
guys. New adoption.
Thank you.
Consumables.
I forgot to thank you for hosting us out at Cal Poly. I didn't write that in my little notes, but you did a great job. Thank you.
Yeah.
I actually looked at that too, Board Member Hanson, but I just assumed it was okay because it said board adopted 3/26/14, so I wasn't
Yeah,
too
but
sure.
that's, I mean, that's not the, yeah, that's a lot of books. So
Yeah.
consumables, that's different.
Okay.
Also, moving forward for all of us, we're trying in cabinet to make things as explicit as possible for the benefit of our new board members. So if something's a consumable, let's add that to the purchase order request to make that distinction. You had a second one, Board Member Hanson, or was it just the
Oh, it was the
J&C
two right there in a
books?
row.
Bolette,
There were two of them.
or were those consumables also?
Are those, oh, yeah, I guess both.
Yes, okay.
Yes? Yes? Okay, thanks.
I
actually have a question on 74, the same page, on item 19-2280 on the student desk for 80 desks. Where will those be going into at the high school?
Mr. Frutos?
No, I don't have the rooms exactly. Those are replacement desks for furniture that has aged or failed, Ms. Garcia. So they're not going to any one or two rooms in particular. It's just a replacement of furniture throughout the campus that's aged or failing.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Also on page 4 of the agenda, I think their 3.5C is numbered incorrectly. It should be 3.7. 3.6C should be 3.8.
Page again?
On the
Stella,
agenda?
did you get that?
Page 4.
Okay. Thank you.
It should actually say the 3.5C on the agenda. It should actually say 3.7. And then 3.6C should actually be 3.8.
I'm sorry, President Gomez, which one was that one?
Sure. On page 4 of the agenda, the 3.5-C should actually be 3.7-C, I guess. And then the 3.6 should actually be 3.8-C. It was just a,
Okay, I see it. Yeah.
okay. Any other questions, discussions? Okay, so Isela, can I have a vote, please?
Yes. Governing Board Member Garcia?
Yes.
Governing Board Member De Leon?
Yes.
Governing Board Member Hanson?
Yes.
Governing Board Member Cuarenta?
Yes.
And Governing Board Member Gomez.
Yes, so the consent items passed, 5-0. Now we're going to the action items. These items are presented for action at this time. Some may have been reviewed by the board at previous meetings under the conference item section on the agenda. So we're going to Human Resources 2.1A. Receive for presentation of the Teachers Association of Paramount's initial reopen proposal for 2019 to 2022 successor collective bargaining agreement with Paramount Unified School District. Staff recommendation, receive the public review the Teachers Association of Paramount initial reopener proposed for the 2019 to 2022 successor collective bargaining agreement for Paramount Unified School District. May I have a motion?
I'll move.
Sonia De Leon made the motion. Linda, you made the second, Linda? I think I heard.
Yes.
Okay, Linda Garcia made the second. Any discussions? No? May I have a vote?
Yes. Governing Board Member Garcia?
No. I mean, I don't have any questions.
We're taking a vote. Board Member Garcia?
Yes.
Governing Board Member De Leon?
Yes.
Governing Board Member Hanson?
Yes.
Governing Board Member Cuarenta?
Yes.
And Governing Board Member Gomez?
Yes. So 2.1A passed 5-0.
Hearing.
Okay, 2.2A, a public hearing on Teacher Association of Paramount initial reopen proposal for 2019-2022, success for collective bargain agreement with the Paramount Unified School District. The staff recommendation, conduct a public hearing regarding the Teacher Association of Paramount initial reopen proposal for 2019-2022, success for collective bargaining agreement with Paramount Unified School District. So we have to open the hearing.
I'll move to open.
So that was Vivian Hansen. I'm sorry, I didn't hear who second.
Ms. Garcia.
Okay, Linda Garcia, second. Any discussions or comments or questions? No? So move that. May I have a
Take a vote.
vote, please?
So, Governing Board Member Garcia?
Yes.
Governing Board Member De Leon?
Yes.
Governing Board Member Hanson?
Yes.
Governing Board Member Cuarenta?
Yes.
Governing Board Member Gomez?
Yes. 5-0, passed to open. Now we're going to close the hearing. May I have a motion to close the hearing?
I think we have to put it on the
sorry.
record that if there's.
Oh,
anyone in
yes,
the-
right.
yes.
Anybody in the audience that would like to speak regarding the public hearing?
I'll move to close, hearing none.
Okay, so Vivian Hansen closed. The second?
Second.
Linda Garcia seconded. Any discussions, any questions? No, from the board? Okay, may I have a roll call, please?
Governing Board Member Garcia?
Yes.
Governing Board Member De Leon?
Yes.
Governing Board Member Hanson?
Yes.
Governing Board Member Cuarenta?
Yes.
Governing Board Member Gomez?
Yes. So the vote's 5-0, so approved to close the hearing. Now we're going to 2.3A, credentializing agreement with San Diego County Superintendent of Schools. Staff recommendation, approve the agreement with San Diego County Superintendent of Schools for participation in the credential program. May I have a motion?
I'll move.
Okay, it's Linda Garcia. They made the motion. May I have a second?
I'll second.
Yesenia Cuarenta made the second. Any discussions, any questions? So move by. May I have roll call, please?
Governing Board Member Garcia?
Yes.
Governing Board Member De Leon?
Yes.
Governing Board Member Hanson?
Yes.
Governing Board Member Cuarenta?
Yes.
Governing Board Member Gomez?
Yes. 5-0 vote, it passed. 2.3A. Now we're going to the Educational Services, 3.1A, approval and adoption of science textbooks and instrumental materials for grades 6 through 8. Staff recommendation, to approve the adoption and purchase of textbooks and instrumental materials for middle school science classes in 2019 and 2020. May I have a motion?
I'll move.
Vivian Hansen made the motion. May I have a second?
I'll second.
Sonia De Leon made the second. Any discussions, any questions? May I have a vote?
Governing Board Member Garcia?
Yes.
Governing Board Member De Leon?
Yes.
Governing Board Member Hanson?
Yes.
Governing Board Member Cuarenta?
Yes.
Governing Board Member Gomez?
Yes. 5-0, the vote passed. 3.1A. Now we're going to 3.2A, non-public placement for special education students in 2018-2019. Staff recommendation, approve the placement for special education students in non-public schools as determined by the student's independent education plan for the 2018-2019 school year. May I have a motion?
I'll move.
Which one?
Her first.
Linda Garcia made the motion and Yesenia Cuarenta made the second. Any questions, any discussions? May I have a vote, please?
Governing Board Member Garcia?
Yes.
Governing Board Member De Leon?
Yes.
Governing Board Member Hanson?
Yes.
Governing Board Member Cuarenta?
Yes.
Governing Board Member Gomez?
Yes. 5-0, motion passed. 3.2A. Now we're going to 3.3A, attorney fees and settlement agreement for the special education student. Staff recommendation, approve and authorize payment for the attorney fees and settlement agreement for a special education student on page 98. May I have a motion?
I'll move.
Vivian Hanson made the motion. May I have a second?
I'll second.
Linda Garcia, second. Any discussions, any questions? So move, Gisela, may I please have a vote?
Governing Board Member Garcia,
Yes.
Governing Board Member De Leon,
Yes.
Governing Board Member Hanson,
Yes.
Governing Board Member Cuarenta,
Yes.
and Governing Board Member Gomez.
Yes, 5-0, motion passed. 3.3A. Now we're going to 3.4A, purchase of textbooks for AB 288 agreement. Staff recommendation, approve the purchase of textbooks and instrumental materials for the first year of the AB 288 agreement in 2019 and 2020 school year. May I have a motion?
I'll move.
Yesenia Cuarenta made the motion. May I have a second?
I'll second.
Vivian Hanson made the second. Any discussions, any questions? So move, Gisela, may I please have a vote?
Governing Board Member Garcia,
Yes.
Governing Board Member De Leon,
Yes.
Governing Board Member Hanson,
Yes.
Governing Board Member Cuarenta,
Yes.
and Governing Board Member Gomez.
Yes, 5-0, motion passed. 3.4A. Now we're going to 3.5A, California Advancing Pathways for Students Agreements. Staff recommendation, approve the California Advancing Pathways for Student agreement to provide career technical education coursework for Paramount Unified School District high school students in 2019-2020 school year. May I have a motion?
I'll move.
Linda Garcia made the motion. May I have a second? I'll make the second. Any questions, any discussions?
I just want to comment. Thank you so much. This is awesome. Just awesome for our students.
Absolutely. Any other questions or discussions? May I have a vote, please?
Governing Board Member Garcia,
Yes.
Governing Board Member De Leon,
Yes.
Governing Board Member Hanson,
Yes.
Governing Board Member Cuarenta,
Yes.
Governing Board Member Gomez.
Yes. Motion passed. 3.5A. Now we're going to 3.6A, memorandum of understanding with Big Picture Learning. Staff recommendation, approve the memorandum of understanding for Buena Vista High School and Community Day School to join Big Picture Learning Upstream Collaborative. May I have a motion?
I'll move.
Sonia De Leon made the motion. May I have a second?
I'll second.
Yesenia Cuarenta made the second. Any discussions or questions? May I have a vote, please?
Governing Board Member Garcia,
Yes.
Governing Board Member De Leon,
Yes.
Governing Board Member Hanson,
Yes.
Governing Board Member Cuarenta,
Yes.
Governing Board Member Gomez.
Yes. Science courses for the 2019-2020 school year. May I have a motion?
I'll move.
Sonia De Leon made the motion. May I have a second?
I'll second.
Yesenia Cuarenta made the second. Any discussions, any questions? If none, may I have a vote, please?
Governing Board Member Garcia,
Yes.
Governing Board Member De Leon,
Yes.
Governing Board Member Hanson,
Yes.
Governing Board Member Cuarenta,
Yes.
Governing Board Member Gomez.
Yes. Motion passed, 3.50 with 3.7-A. Now we're going to business services, 4.1A, notices of completion, field service contracts. Staff recommendation, accept as completed the field service contracts for exterior painting at Wertz, replace kitchen hood and exhaust fan at Los Cerritos, install carpet in 14 rooms at Wertz, carpentry repairs and replacement windows in rooms 9, 10, 12, and restrooms at Wertz, replace windows at multi-purpose room and room 16, 17 at Keppel, and roof repair and coating at district office, repair carpet in various rooms at Moakler, and authorize the superintendent or designee to file the notices of completion and make payment to all contracted parties upon expiration of the lien period and determination that no liens are outstanding. May I have a motion?
I'll move.
Was that Sonia?
Yes.
Sonia De Leon made the motion. May I have a second?
I'll second.
Yesenia Cuarenta made the second. Any questions, any comments? Any discussion? So forth? No? Gisela, please vote.
Governing Board Member Garcia,
Yes.
Governing Board Member De Leon,
Yes.
Governing Board Member Hanson,
Yes.
Governing Board Member Cuarenta?
Yes.
Governing Board Member Gomez?
Yes. Vote 5-0, it passed. 4.1A. Now we're going to 4.2A, Service Agreement, Artificial Turf Systems. Staff recommendation, authorize staff to renew service agreements with Field Turf USA Incorporated and further authorize the superintendent or designee to execute all necessary documents. May I have a motion?
I'll move.
I'll second.
Vivian Hansen made the motion, Linda Garcia second. Any discussion, any questions? So none, may I please have a vote?
Governing Board Member Garcia?
Yes.
Governing Board Member De Leon?
Yes.
Governing Board Member Hanson?
Yes.
Governing Board Member Cuarenta?
Yes.
Governing Board Member Gomez?
Yes. Vote 5-0, motion passed. 4.2A. Now we're going for 4.3A, authorization of student nutrition service supplies, carpentry, concrete and field service contract renewals. Staff recommendation, authorize the renewal of field service contract for asphalt, flooring and tiling, painting, roofing, plumbing and storm drains, electrical and related services, carpeting, fencing, heating, ventilation and air conditioning, network cabling, building supplies, computers, notebooks and related components, landscaping, tree trimming, playground and surfing replacement, student taxi transportation services, and pizza delivery, and authorize the superintendent or designee to execute all necessary documents. Authorize staff to prepare bid specifications for dairy, bread, produce, kitchen supplies, snacks and beverage, frozen foods, dry goods, carpentry, and concrete. Authorize the superintendent or designee to advertise, review, award, and execute all necessary documents to the lowest responsive and responsible bidder. May I have a motion?
I'll move.
Yesenia Cuarenta made the motion. May I have a second?
I'll second.
Sonia De Leon will make the second. Any discussions, any questions? I do have a question. When we bid out, there are gonna be, I guess it's a minimum of 3 bids. Will the board be able to see the bids?
Mr. Frutos?
I can answer that. There is no requirement for a minimum of 3 bids, Ms. Gomez, because sometimes there aren't enough vendors interested. We
Okay.
try to keep the prices very low. So for example, I'll give you an example that we are right now looking at. For our replacement of all our switches, routers, and hubs, which is all paid by E-rate, by the way, it's a grant, $2.9 million, we are gonna have to do some recabling. And there's one company that's been working with the districts for several years doing low voltage. So we expect them to provide a competitive bid, and they already know our architecture, so they give us best pricing. So in some cases, it's a combination of getting somebody that's willing to come with us, that gives us the quality of equipment, but we request bids formally, so we could get more than 3.
Okay. But even though we still have that company that does the work already, we still bid out to make sure
Absolutely.
he's still underneath, okay.
To remain legal. Absolutely.
Perfect. Any other questions or comments, or may I have a vote,
Yes.
please?
Governing Board Member Garcia?
Yes.
Governing Board Member De Leon?
Yes.
Governing Board Member Hanson?
Yes.
Governing Board Member Cuarenta?
Yes.
Governing Board Member Gomez?
Yes. The motion passed 5-0, 4.3A. Now we're going to 4.4A, other post-education benefit plan implement. On page 125, staff recommendation, authorize staff to prepare specification and seek proposals for the implementation of a district OPEB plan, fund and trust, authorize the designee for prior year's insurance savings to the district OPEB plan, authorize the superintendent or designee to prepare the board review, award, and execute all necessary documents. And just for the record, I did ask what that was, and we all got a sheet from answering that question from Dr. Perez. So may I have a motion?
I'll move.
Okay, so that's Vivian Hansen made the motion. I believe Linda Garcia second. Any questions, any comments? So none. May I please have a vote?
Yes. Governing Board Member Garcia?
Yes.
Governing Board Member De Leon?
Yes.
Governing Board Member Hanson?
Yes.
Governing Board Member Cuarenta?
Yes.
Governing Board Member Gomez?
Yes. Motion passed 5-0, 4.4A. Now we're going to 4.5A, community survey, trustee area and term limits. Is this the one that we're going to move?
Yes.
So we're moving this item to the next, our next meeting, which would be June, what did she say? June 8th? No?
June 10th.
June 10th. So this one will be moved to June 10th. Do I still need to make a motion for that?
No.
No? Okay. Okay, so now we're going to conference items. These items are presented for advanced planning and to assist the board in establishing further agenda items. The board may, however, take action on the following. So we're going to educational services, 3.1-CF, revised board policy 6146.4, high school graduation requirements. Accept the first reading proposed revised board policy 6146.4, high school graduation requirements, which reflect current state requirements on page 127. And I guess we don't need a motion, so we just go to the second one, right?
Yes, this is provided to you, board members, in advance, so that you can review the old policy, the proposed policy, and we underline for you exactly what the changes into the new policy based on legislation, and that's why we call this a first reading proposed revised policy, to give you an opportunity to read it, and then we'll bring it back in June for you to vote upon it.
Any discussions, any questions on that? Nope. So we're going to information items. These items are intended to keep the board informed in various district business matters that do not require formal action by the board. Yes, Dr.
Yes, ma'am. The information item 4.1I is the monthly financial statements for the month of April. The revenues received in excess of $100,000 are listed, and they're followed by financial statements for each fund for your perusal. Information item 4.2I.
Before you leave that, I just have a question. What is quarter one and quarter two backcasted? I don't know what that means. Page 133?
Where on the page are you reading that? Backcasted in the center. The second, received revenue of $281,673 for 2014 through 15. First report through second, backcasted.
I can explain.
Yes.
Okay. It's monies from prior years.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Okay, 4.2I, monthly financial statement for special education for the month of April. Revenues received in excess of $100,000 are listed, and they're followed by the financial statements. Any questions on that? Information item 4.3I, monthly financial statement for the self-insured fund. Contributions for the month of April are listed, followed by the financial statement. Okay. Information item 4.4I, the first is for general education. The actual ADA is increased by 441 students from the projected P2 ADA for the 7th month of 2018-19. The actual enrollment as of the 7th month decreased by 429 students compared to last year. The rate of attendance is 96% compared to last year, which was 97 at this time. For special education, the actual ADA increased by 46 from projected the P2 report ADA for the 7th month of 2018 through 19. The actual enrollment as of the 7th month increased by 32 from 2017 2017-18 school year to 2018-19 school year. And then we also have something for you, board members, at the end regarding the bond. I'm trying to get to that page. Mr. Frutos, would you like to speak to this one? The Paramount Education School District 2019B General Obligation Bond Election of 2016 Closing Information.
Absolutely. There is a new requirement that came about after districts, you recall, got in a little bit of trouble several years ago, starting with Poway Unified, over not disclosure of full financial information regarding bonds. So after that law passed, districts have to disclose all the information, and I'm very pleased to tell you that our expenditures actually came significantly lower than originally estimated, primarily because we worked on our credit information and credit reduction. If you remember, we started with a credit rating that was lower. By the time we finished, it was higher. So what we provided to you is the full amount of all the expenditures. By law, you have to have every penny accounted for. So if the board has any questions, please ask, because we work very hard with the partners. And if you remember, on line item 2, there's a credit item, and then there is some information. That's the amount we saved by improving our credit rating. I'm going off of memory right now, but if I remember correctly, it pushed up to $400,000. So for our bond, it ended up being very.
So when does the annual report come out?
Well, this is a report that we have to do at issuance. Then every subsequent year after issuance, we have to come to you with an annual report. So the issuance took place in March. We have to come to you every year after that to do the report. In our district, we combine them all with the audit of our bond, so it'll come to you earlier. It'll be in about 9 months.
And that concludes, unless there are any further questions, the information section of the board agenda.
I just have one question on here. Where it says, on page 168, where it says wiring instructions. I was very, very surprised to see how much it costs to wire that money to the bank.
Yeah.
$296,088.80. I'm like, wow.
Yeah, yes.
Crazy.
Okay. So now, announcements. Anyone have any announcements?
I just want to remind the board members, Wednesday evening is our Employee of the Year event, and I sent everyone an email about the event. I hope that you received it. It is a wonderful event for employees in our district, and they look forward to being recognized by the Board of Education that evening.
I spoke to Dr. Perez, and I wanted to speak to the board and see what your comments or suggestions or questions are. The city of Paramount's having a Heritage Parade, and I asked Dr. Perez that it would be nice if the school board be present. Either we walk or we take a car or something, and Dr. Perez offered that she can get us a truck with a banner, and we can stand behind the truck and say hello to everyone. But I think it would be really nice if the Board of Education be present at that parade.
Did the committee invite us, or?
Yes, I do have I have to get the name, the Guillen, the one that has the application. She's the one who's.
Well, the city has the application. I just want to make sure that the committee knows that we're interested.
Yes, that's the committee where Brenda Olmos is. Yes, absolutely. The Guillen, I forgot her first name. I'm very sorry. I think it's Becky Guillen, or Rebecca Guillen. She's the one also on the committee, and she's the one who mentioned it. And I said I was going to bring it to the board. So, any discussions, any questions, or are you interested or not?
I think it would be interesting. Would our students participate, like our band, or?
I mean, I believe Dr. Perez sent something out.
I think that Brenda almost they have reached out to our schools direct, well, they should really come through us.
There are a lot of
they're all
a
part of it already. They've been doing that individually. And you're referring to, of course, the Board of Education as a board.
Absolutely.
And that would take place June
1st.
Saturday, June 1st.
So are we in agreement, not agreement? I mean, would you like it, not like it? I mean, I'm one person on this board. We're 5 people, so we have to make a team decision.
Well, I had already said that I'm okay with it.
Okay, that's 2, because I'm okay. So I need.
Yesenia, what do you think?
I may not be able to attend. Thank you, President Gomez, for bringing it up, and it's a great idea, but I may not be able to attend with other previous commitments.
Okay.
Yeah, I guess it's all right. Yeah.
Okay. So if you can move forward. Oh, Board Member Garcia?
Yeah, I think it's great if you guys are part of the parade.
Okay. So we'll ask Dr. Perez to move forward in getting that truck and the banner, and I think it'll be a really nice idea for the board to be there too, so, because our bands in our schools will be there too, so let's give them a, show that we do care about our community. So with that announcement, our next regular meeting will be June 10th, except for we're gonna have the June 3rd study session for the June 4th for the study session. And then our regular meeting is June 10th, 6 p.m. boardroom in the office, district office. And then we're gonna close at approximately 9:12, is that correct? Let me grab my glasses, can't see that far. 9:12 p.m., but then 9:12, but then we're going into a closed session, May 13, 2019. We're gonna talk about a conference with labor negotiator per government code 54957-0.6, district negotiator Myrna Morales with the CSEA and TAP. Number 2 will be conference with legal counsel, anticipation litigation per government code 54956.91 case. Then we'll do number 4. Public. Number 3 will be public employment per government code 54957, principals and director of special ed. And then number 4 would be student discipline, board hearing to consider the expulsion of a student E-2. So we'll open the session at 9:13, correct? If that's where we're gonna go?
We're gonna go into closed session at 9:13.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
Want to turn this off?